Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, My Hero Academia, Sand Fruit. Chapter 91. Seeing the expression of the head teacher of Class B, All Might couldn't help but said with a wry smile. There is nothing we can do about it. In reality, various accidents often happen. Only by overcoming various accidents can we become heroes. The head teacher of Class B smiled awkwardly when he heard this. All Might, I don't mean anything else. I just want to praise this kid named Baekwon Soo-yuan for being so energetic. Really, it's good to be energetic and full of energy. All Might replied. Yes, Class B's head teacher replied with an awkward smile. Fortunately, All Might didn't pursue what he said before, otherwise it would have seemed like he didn't know how to teach students. At this moment, on the field, scattered candidates also returned to the stadium. Midnight continued on the ring and shouted loudly. The top 42 will pass the preliminaries. Although it is a bit regretful, students who have been eliminated need not be discouraged. The school has also prepared other stages for you to show yourself. As he said that, Midnight revealed a weird smile and continued, Okay, now it's finally time to enter the main game. From now on, the media will also be crazy about your performance, so perform well. As he said that, Midnight's electric braids started spinning again on the big screen. Okay, the second project is horse fighting. Everyone looked at the words, horse riding battle, on the screen, and suddenly there was a look of astonishment. Equestrian combat, it's something I'm not good at. Kaminari Denki frowned. This is not a personal project. How do you compare it specifically? Yes, I am also concerned about this issue. As soon as they finished speaking, Midnight shouted loudly and began to explain the rules of horseback fighting. The competition requires contestants to freely form teams of 2 to 4 people to form horses. The rules are basically the same as the horse riding battles that everyone usually plays. The only difference is, each contestant will be assigned points corresponding to the ranking achieved in the previous event. As soon as Midnight finished speaking, someone immediately began to whisper among themselves. Is the method of earning points for the meaning skill similar to that for the entrance exam? It's really simple and easy to understand. Yes, that is to say, the horse's score will be different depending on the personnel configuration. When you said that, I suddenly understood. As soon as he finished speaking, Zai angrily threw away the whip in his hand and shouted loudly. You are not allowed to interrupt when the teacher is explaining. Everyone immediately held their heads high and looked forward obediently. You are right, the points are awarded by adding 5 points for each promotion from the back to the front. The 42nd place is 5 points, and the 41st place is 10 points. Then the first place will be awarded 10 million points. As soon as Midnight finished speaking, everyone's eyes widened, and their gazes were quietly cast in front of Shoto Todoroki. To exaggerate, they were almost drooling. 10 million points. That is to say, if you kill the 10 million point horse, no matter what your previous ranking was, you can jump to the first place instantly. Although that is true, the strength of the first place cannot be overshadowed. You also saw his quirks in the obstacle course just now. Yes, but fortunately, it's not that madman who comes first. If it were that madman, who would rush to snatch this big dark horse? Of course, the madman they are talking about is Soo-yuan. But it's also true that anyone who steps on Soo-yuan's horse dares to snatch it. He is afraid that he will bite your horse before you get over. You're right, if that madman comes first, we really won't have any fun. Then the next question is, what if they from Class A form a group and become a dark horse? When everyone heard this, the corners of their mouths were slightly twitching just now, but now they were all stiff. And at this moment, Midnight's voice came from the front again. Yes, this is a game where the higher the ranking, the easier it is to be attacked. Now, let me explain the minimum standing rules. The time limit is 15 minutes. The total of the points you are assigned is the score of the entire horse. The rider must wear a turban on his head indicating the horse's score, and the players must try their best to snatch other people's turbans before the time ends. The headscarves must be worn above the neck. This means that the more people rob, the more difficult it is to manage. Then, the most important point is that no matter if your headband is robbed or your horse falls apart, you will not be eliminated. After hearing Midnight's words, many people's faces began to stiffen. It was a free-for-all from the beginning. You're right, whoever can reach the end the most will be the winner. I thought of a good way, that is, let's not take action at the beginning, let them fight to the death, and then we attack from behind. This will definitely be much easier. This is a tragic battle that allows the use of quirks in the game, but after all, it is a horse battle. A vicious attack with the purpose of breaking the horse formation will be shown a red card and directly kicked off the field. Okay, now you have 15 minutes to form your own team. As soon as Midnight finished speaking, everyone started looking for teammates. In this horse riding battle, as long as I cooperate with Baekwon Soo-yuan, no one will be able to snatch my brother's 10 million points. Shoto Todoroki began to analyze, and while muttering, he cast his eyes in the direction of Soo-yuan. But I found that many people had already rushed over to Soo-yuan to propose forming a team. No way, it's so fast. Shoto Todoroki frowned. Obviously, his plan was going to fail. If Soo-yuan's group robs him, so no matter what, his 10 million points will be robbed. And it was impossible for him to take back the 10 million points from Soo-yuan. If he wants to advance, he can only choose to steal other people's. But, now, many people are reluctant to form a team with him because they are all looking at his 10 million points. But suddenly at this moment, a voice sounded behind Shoto Todoroki. Hey, half-face, you don't have to look for anything else. I just heard that guy Soo-yuan say that All Might asked us to form a team of 4. 260. 4, naturally refers to Bakugo Katsuki, Shoto Todoroki, Midoriya Izuku, and Tokiyami Fumikage. While saying this, Bakugo Katsuki walked up to Shoto Todoroki. Shoto Todoroki was stunned for a moment, feeling a little sudden, and shrugged. It doesn't matter, but the first, second, third, and fifth place will form a team. This is probably the highest score in the game and the biggest dark horse. Isn't this interesting? Our goal is to steal everyone's points. Bakugo Katsuki smiled scarily. Others are okay, but I was robbed when I was trying to grab Soo-yuan. Shoto Todoroki said in a deep voice. Bakugo Katsuki showed a disdainful expression. He is not a human being. Yes, Shoto Todoroki nodded in agreement. But soon, when the 4 of them gathered together, as expected, they started to quarrel over who would be the rider. Midoriya Izuku and Tokiyami Fumikage gave in wisely, but Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki started to argue. You want to be a rider? Are you kidding me? I will definitely win as a rider. Bakugo Katsuki retorted. I'm thinking about the overall situation. My quirks are large scale and it's very beneficial to be a rider. Shoto Todoroki explained. Midoriya, Izuku and the others were stunned for a moment, and finally said to Bakugo Katsuki. Yes, Kachan, Shoto Todoroki is right, our quirks can be used as riders, so he is the most suitable. Midoriya Izuku said. The corners of Bakugo Katsuki's mouth raised slightly. What kind of god is most suitable? In his eyes, anyone who cannot be a rider is just a sidekick. Then you 3 can play, I'll find someone else. Bakugo Katsuki said and turned around. He waved his hands with his back to them. Xiao Shang, All Might said. Before Midoriya Izuku finished speaking, Bakugo Katsuki retorted directly. He said it, but he didn't say it was necessary. At this time, Soo-yuan's team was almost ready. Miyu him. Soo-yuan pointed at Kaminari Denki, and Yaoyorozu Momo couldn't help but muttered, then there is still one more person left. Saying that, Yaoyorozu Momo and Kaminari Denki couldn't help but look around. The result is indeed not that optimistic, because many people have successfully formed a team. However, when Soo-yuan saw Bakugo Katsuki recruiting people, Wei Wei felt something interesting. But, if you think about it carefully, how is it possible for Bakugo Katsuki to be a walk-on for you with his character? It's all because you rejected too many people just now. Yaoyorozu Momo rolled his eyes at Soo-yuan. Indeed, at the beginning, a large number of people from Class A or other subjects came directly to see Soo-yuan. However, Soo-yuan refused most of them. Well, you can't blame me. A bunch of people gathered just now. It was too chaotic, so I rejected them. Soo-yuan said helplessly. Just when Soo-yuan was about to find someone, a soft voice sounded behind him. You still need one person here, so form a team with me. Hearing this, Soo-yuan turned around. A man with pink hair and strange equipment looked at Su Yuan Zero with an expectant expression. Su Yuan was slightly startled. He seemed to have remembered that equipment was not allowed in the competition. Could it be that this woman had a VIP license? Who are you? Su Yuan asked subconsciously. Hatsume Mei stood with her head held high and introduced herself. I am Hatsume Mei from the support department. Hatsume Mei. A woman is called this name. Su Yuan almost laughed out loud on the court, but he still had basic courtesy. Oh, Su Yuan replied. Although we don't know each other, it doesn't matter. We can get to know each other after we form a team, right? Hatsume Mei said, moving closer and closer to Su Yuan. Su Yuan darkened slightly, took a step back, and said, well, okay. Really? That's great, Hatsume Mei said excitedly. Then let's talk about who will be the rider. Seeing that the number of people was enough, Su Yuan continued to ask the next question. Aren't you responsible? Kaminari Denki and Yaoyorozu Momo said in unison. Should I do it? That's fine, it looks fun. After Su Yuan completed the team formation, he arrived soon, and at this time, Midnight also shouted loudly from the ring. Okay, it's finally time to start. At this time, the commentator present Mike also started shouting. After 15 minutes of team negotiation, there are already 12 horses waiting in the center of the venue. As soon as present Mike finished speaking, the whole audience shouted loudly again. Then let the game begin. Midnight shouted. As soon as the words fell, there was no doubt that many people immediately took action. Okay, it's time for us to get on, drive, drive. Su Yuan shouted. Listening to Su Yuan's 2 words of drive, Yaoyorozu Momo and the others couldn't help but stiffen their expressions. You guys really treat us like horses. Kaminari Denki complained. Su Yuan smiled. Hey, do you think I, Su Yuan, look like that kind of person? Kaminari Denki in the front, Yaoyorozu Momo and Hatsume Mei on the left and right nodded at the same time. Picture. I think all I have to do is ask Miss Midnight to borrow her whip. You're right, all we have to do is whip us with the whip that Teacher Midnight is holding. Kaminari Denki also joined in. Su Yuan rolled his eyes at them speechlessly, shrugged helplessly, and said, okay, let's not talk about this for now, let's concentrate on the next game. Although the game started almost 2 minutes ago, there was already a fierce scramble for in the center of the field. However, the current situation is obvious, no one is willing to come and snatch Su Yuan's team. But yes, they are not fools. Although the score of Su Yuan's group is ranked 3rd, it has the worst risk index in the whole game. Therefore, many people directly choose to avoid it, so as to snatch the 1st and 2nd place, or to snatch other small shrimps. We don't seem to be very popular. Yaoyorozu Momo said softly. This kind of thing doesn't matter, but it's better this way. We are too lazy to grab them one by one, so we let them grab them for us and then go directly to pick them up. This way, we can save a lot of steps. Su Yuan said slowly. The 3 of them thought for a while and then nodded. Less than 2 minutes after the game started, the field was already in a melee, with headscarves fighting for each other everywhere in the field. Actually, giving up 10 million and focusing on 2 to 4 people is also a very good choice. Present Mike's voice echoed throughout the stadium. Bakugo, we really want to grab the 1st place, but we can't seem to squeeze in. Hiroshima Eijiro said in a low voice. Of course, that's what makes it interesting. Bakugo Katsuki said, the expression on his face gradually became crazy. Hey, it seems like all the combat power of our class is there. I'm afraid this will be a chore. Hiroshima Eijiro was worried that not only would he not be able to grab theirs, but his own would be picked up as well, so he had to repeatedly ask Bakugo Katsuki if he was sure he wanted to go. Although 10 million points is very tempting, I don't think we should take it. After all, there is a more powerful one behind us. Jiro added. That's right. Bakugo Katsuki was stunned and thought it made sense. That seems to be the case. As he spoke, he turned to look at Su Yuan standing not far away. Suddenly, at this moment, Bakugo Katsuki felt his head being pulled. The scarf tied to his head and marked with scores was taken away by others. Too naive, a member of Class A. The person who snatched Bakugo Katsuki's headscarf was Monorama Nito from Class B. Looking at the headscarf in his hand, Mononama Shoto smiled broadly. Bakugo Katsuki suddenly had veins on his forehead erect, and shouted loudly, "What did you say? Brat, come back quickly, or I'll kill you." Hearing this, Mononoma Ningren slowly looked towards Bakugo Katsuki. The smile on his lips seemed to be laughing at his stupidity. "When you heard the word, first project, from Teacher Midnight, didn't you think that it would be impossible to drastically reduce the number of participants? We assume that the promotion ranking is within 40, and we will finish the qualifiers with a score above this ranking, so we are behind and carefully observe the quirks and personalities of the players who will compete with us. There's no point in clinging to such a temporary ranking. Also, I have discovered a very interesting thing since the first project. As long as my guess is correct, all this will be within my expectations. Monokuma Ning's 120 quirks can be copied, and you can copy them by touching others, but they can only last for 5 minutes. Yes, he took a fancy to Su Yuan's quirks in the preliminaries. He guessed that as long as he copied Su Yuan's quirks, he would be able to control everything in this horseback riding battle. However, he was a bit unlucky, because this time he bumped into Bakugo Katsuki. "Is the whole class colluding?" Bakugo Katsuki said with a stiff expression. Although not everyone agrees, it's better than that idiot who is obsessed with temporary rankings like a carrot seducing a galloping horse." Mononama Nito mocked Bakugo Katsuki. At this moment, Monohian Ningren didn't know that he had completely stung a hornet's nest. Unsurprisingly, after hearing this, Bakugo Katsuki was so angry that the corners of his mouth began to tremble. "Kirishima, change of plans. I'm going to kill him." Kirishima Eijiro felt a bad premonition from just now, and he quickly tried to persuade Bakugo Katsuki. "Bakugo, don't get excited yet." As for Monohian Ningren, his teammates also gave him instructions. "Monujima, don't always provoke others. After all, we are still classmates." Monojien Ningren smiled strangely and said, "Hey, you were right, this is not like Hero S at all. Moreover, we often hear that some people attract too much hatred. Hero S news of revenge from villains." Mononama Nito obviously considers Bakugo Katsuki to be more of a villain. As expected, Bakugo Katsuki was getting more and more angry at this moment. "Bakugo, calm down. Yeah, Bakugo, calm down, otherwise, we will lose." Boom. Bakugo Katsuki put his hands together and then opened them again. Following an explosion, thick black smoke slowly rose from the palms of his hands. "Go ahead, Kirishima, I'm calmer than ever before," Bakugo Katsuki said in a deep voice. Kirishima Eijiro hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Then it's up to you." With that said, Kirishima Eijiro carried Bakugo Katsuki on his back and quickly ran towards Mononama Nito. Bakugo Katsuki's face was a little ferocious, and sparks were flashing in his palms, and thick black smoke was floating everywhere. "Go to hell." As soon as he finished speaking, Bakugo Katsuki pushed him over with a palm. When Wu Jianing saw this, he quickly dodged. In the meantime, he turned around and hit Bakugo Katsuki with a palm. With a bang, it directly hit Bakugo Katsuki. When he retracted his hand, he touched Kirishima Eijiro's raised hair. At this moment, Bakugo Katsuki was a little wiser. "What a great, awesome quirks." A smile appeared on Monokuma Naren's lips. Kirishima Eijiro was suddenly startled. "Bakugo, do your quirks also overlap with others?" Bakugo Katsuki frowned and became even more angry. He directly pushed forward with his palm again. Obviously, the hand this time was heavier than before. Monohian Ningren once again let out a smile, and half of his body immediately hardened. Bang! Monohian Ningren almost flew out, and at this moment, his face became solemn. Wow wow wow, my quirks are heavy again. Kirishima Eijiro wanted to die at this moment. Why didn't he just compete in a competition? He met so many people who wanted to find quirks again with him. Bakugo Katsuki was stunned and seemed to understand something. No, this guy copied his quirks. Mononama Nito calmed down and turned his gaze back to Bakugo Katsuki. Just when Bakugo Katsuki wanted to launch the next attack, suddenly, the rest of the class also used quirks to create a wall between them. However, just when Mononama Ningren was about to say thank you to his classmates, someone behind him said something in advance. "Thank you." As soon as he finished speaking, all the scarves hanging around his neck were shot directly by Su Yuan. Wujian Ningren was stunned for a moment, his brain was working rapidly, and when Su Yuan stretched out his hand, he touched Su Yuan's hand. I was thinking of looking for you next, Manorama Ningren said in a deep voice. Looking for me? Why are you looking for me? Su Yuan replied while hanging the snatched scarf around his neck. Of course it is a very meaningful thing to do. Manorama Ningren sneered. At this time, Bakugo Katsuki's team was again in Su Yuan's sight. Su Yuan, if you don't go and grab 10 million points, what are you doing here? Bakugo Katsuki asked. Su Yuan smiled. I thought it was close here, and the score he got was quite high, so I grabbed it by the way. This guys can copy other people's quirks, so be careful. Bakugo Katsuki gave an instruction. He knew that if he wanted to advance and snatch points from Su Yuan, it would be impossible. He could only exchange for others. Lololol. At this time, Mononama Nito laughed loudly, and said with a ferocious expression, it's too late, I have already copied his quirks. What? Bakugo Katsuki suddenly frowned. Copy other people's quirks? Su Yuan was stunned. Strictly speaking, this is not quirks, but the ability of devil fruit. However, as for whether it could be copied, to be honest, he was a little unclear. Of course, what Su Yuan doesn't know is that the copy of Wujian Ningren Hao Wanghao has time, which is 5 minutes, and 2 of them cannot be used at the same time. Then let me try this terrifying quirks next, Manorama Ningren said and waved his hand. The ground immediately began to shake, and immediately after, a giant hand made of sand rose directly from the ground. Su Yuan looked at this scene and uttered a curse word, it looks like it can really be copied. But the next moment, Manorama Ningren couldn't laugh anymore, because after using this ability, his body felt as if it was empty. Dense beads of sweat gathered on his face, and his breathing became very rapid. And his teammates, at this moment, seemed to sense something was wrong with Manorama Ningren, so they asked. Monujima, are you okay? Monohian Ningren greedily sucked the air and quickly reached out to touch his teammates. At this time, the look on his face improved a lot. At this moment, the giant sand-shaped hand that had just risen from the ground turned into loose sand and fell to the ground. Monument. Seeing that Monohian Ningren didn't answer, his teammates asked repeatedly. It's okay, I just encountered a very strange thing. His quirks, in my current body, seem to be too much for me. Monoma Ningren speculated. No way, are his quirks so powerful? This is the first time I hear you say that, his teammates said in surprise. Moreover, seeing Monokuma Ningren's solemn expression, his teammates felt a lot uneasy. I'm also surprised. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation in such a long time. Monorama Ningren said with a frown. After copying Su Yuan's quirks, there was nothing at the beginning, but when he was released, he could feel that this quirks was constantly devouring his physical and mental strength. If he hadn't changed it early, he would probably be lying on the ground now. Let's go, Monohian Ningren said in a deep voice. At this moment, Dao Yuan suddenly spoke. Leave, haha, you fart in front of me and want to run away. Do I allow it? Monorama Ningren did not panic and said with a sneer, what? Have you forgotten what Teacher Midnight said? A vicious attack aimed at breaking up the horse formation will result in a red card and direct ejection from the field. I don't have a single point in my hand now. If you come here to attack me, and it's not a vicious attack, then it doesn't make sense. Tit. As he said this, Monojian Ningren became even more crazy. However, if you want to attack viciously, I don't mind. After all, I think it's worth it if you can be eliminated. Su Yuan frowned when he heard this. At first, he just wanted to trap Wujian Ningren, and he didn't want to make things difficult for him. But now, I saw Su Yuan pulling off 2 headscarves around his neck, one heading towards Bakugo Sheng who was not far away. Ichija threw it towards Mononoma Ningren. However, Monohian Ningren has no intention of accepting it. If I accept it, wouldn't it be a good idea to fall in love with you? Monorama Ningren said self-righteously. Bakugo, I don't remember that Mr. Midnight didn't say that if the 2 teams are grabbing and it affects the nearby group, there will be some punishment. Su Yuan said slowly. Bakugo Katsuki was stunned, and a smile appeared on his lips. I really didn't say that. No, Hurry up and go to the place where there are many people. Monahan Ningren shouted loudly. Su Yuan sneered and waved his hand, and a wall of sand surrounded the three groups of Monokuma Nito, Bakugo Katsuki, and Su Yuan. Bakugo, I'm going to do it. Su Yuan sneered. Ha ha, I can't wait any longer. Bakugo Katsuki roared and ran quickly. It's just that. The direction they were facing was the position where Mononoma Ningren was standing. It's over, they're coming towards us. Yes, Monokuma, I have already told you not to provoke them, but now it's better. Monahan Ningren frowned. At first, he did not expect the result to be like this. They can run, can't we? If you don't want to be affected, just run away. Monahan Ningren said. But, their target is clearly us. Then run away and stand there waiting to die. Monahan Ningren was also anxious at this moment. After all, Su Yuan and Bakugo Katsuki are approaching step by step. Big bang. Bakugo Katsuki hit him with a palm, and Monokuma Nito's group was so scared that they were pissed off. If they had been slower, they would have probably faced him head-on. Su Yuan, good luck to you, I missed it. Bakugo Katsuki shouted. It seems you need to get a pair of glasses. Bakugo, where am I? Monorama Ningren rolled his eyes, he was clearly just hitting himself. Just as he was secretly cursing Bakugo Katsuki, a voice came from his side again. Sandstorm impact. A pile of sand hit Monorama Nito directly like a cannonball. Run. Run. Monahan Ningren was also worried. However, their running speed is still worthy of praise. There was only one sound, boom. A big hole was directly knocked out of the wall. Luckily for you, I missed it too. Su Yuan smiled. It seems that you are also going to get a pair of glasses. Bakugo Katsuki laughed strangely. Undoubtedly, both Su Yuan's teammates and Bakugo Katsuki's teammates rolled their eyes. These two guys, Yaoyorozu Momo said speechlessly. I'm really worried about that guy from Class B. He provoked someone with the most explosive temper and someone with the most terrifying strength. At this time, the legs of Monorama Nito's teammate were still trembling. At this moment, Monahan Ningren could no longer remain calm and shouted loudly. Teacher Midnight, it's a foul on them. A foul on both of them. Monokuma Nito pointed at Su Yuan and Bakugo Katsuki, while looking in the direction of Midnight, and kept shouting, Su Yuan and the others have committed a foul. Midnight thought for a few seconds, then finally waved the whip in his hand and shouted loudly. This classmate, although what they did seems to be a bit excessive, the foul you said about them is not true. When Monokuma Nito heard Midnight's words, his expression suddenly began to harden. However, soon, his frozen expression gradually turned into a smile. Even if we don't have such conditions, we will create such conditions. Monahan Ningren suddenly spoke, the corners of his mouth gradually raised. The teammates on the side paused when they heard this. 387. After understanding the meaning of these words, they couldn't remain calm. Monujian, don't you mean? Absolutely not, it's too despicable to do this. You're right, we still put the overall situation first. Monahan Ningren frowned and shouted, isn't it despicable for them to do this? It's not your fault for provoking them first, Monokuma. If you hadn't gone too far, Monorama, the two of them wouldn't have been like this. Are you blaming me? Monahan Ningren's face became increasingly ugly. Monugia, that's not what we meant. Then what do you mean? In a word, if we were not despicable, we would be the ones to show up. Monahan Ningren said in a deep voice. Hearing this, they became silent. Yes, they want to win, and the Hero Sports Festival is the first turning point in their lives. Of course, not everyone has this turning point. Only when you reach the end can this turning point happen to you. But again, ours is not despicable, it is just a survival rule. Monorama Ningren continued. Monugia is right, this world is like this. All right. At this moment, everyone finally compromised for their own goals. After reaching an agreement, Jian Ningren's smile returned to his face. He cast his eyes towards Su Yuan and the others. Oh, it seems that Teacher Midnight is going to join in the trouble with you despicable Class A. Bakugo Katsuki heard this and immediately retorted, what are you talking about? You need to use despicable means to deal with it. Oh, isn't it? Is it possible for what you Class A are doing now to be seen by others? Monujima, stop talking. One of them is All Might's apprentice. You are saying that maybe they will mess with us secretly. You, Kirishima, come on, I'm going to kill him. Bakugo Katsuki immediately lost his temper after hearing what they said. Okay. Just when Kirishima Eijiro was about to run towards Monokuma Nido, Suyuan suddenly appeared in front of him and said with a smile. What are you doing? They are forcing us to attack maliciously so that we can be punished. Suyuan said softly. No way. Kirishima Eijiro paused. So what do we do? Kaminari Denki asked. Listening to Kaminari Denki's words, Suyuan fell silent. If it were him, it wouldn't be a big deal if he just went over and hammered him. After all, this is not just a game, it doesn't matter if you withdraw or not. However, now, he is a little undecided. Once he acts according to his own will, he will definitely join them. This is really a difficult problem. Suyuan muttered. Suyuan, if we follow the usual projects, the next one should be 1 vs 1. Yaoyorozu Momo suddenly said. 1 vs 1. Bakugo Katsuki said, suddenly revealing a strange smile. Suyuan paused and shrugged. In that case, we have to keep them. That's right, Bakugo Katsuki said excitedly. As he spoke, Suyuan raised his head slightly and looked towards the big screen. At this time, the one with the highest score is undoubtedly Shoto Todoroki. However, the second place went to Suyuan's team. Bakugo Katsuki is currently at the back. Monokuma Nido's score is 0 points, and now there is not even 5 minutes left. Okay, let me go to Shoto Todoroki to borrow some points first, otherwise our plan will not succeed. Suyuan said slowly. Kirishima, let's go too. Bakugo Katsuki said in a deep voice. Kaminari, head in the direction of Shoto Todoroki. Suyuan continued. Hello. At this time, Shoto Todoroki used his quirks to create a thick wall and blocked himself. With 10 million points, he doesn't need to rob like others. He only needs to defend others' robs well. There are more than 4 points left. Shoto Todoroki said with a solemn expression. I guess Suyuan won't come to rob us. Izuku said. As long as Suyuan doesn't come, our 148,000 points can be defended. Tokiyami Fumikage said solemnly. No way, this group is almost the most powerful in our class. Do you need to do this when facing Suyuan? Ashido asked. Pipe. The reason why she asked this was obviously because although Suyuan and he were classmates, she really didn't know much about Suyuan. In her eyes, although Suyuan is also number 1, he is not much different from the second or third in terms of strength. As soon as she finished speaking, 3 eyes looked towards him. Ashido Mina was stunned and hesitantly said, what are you going to do? That Ashido-san. Just when the atmosphere was a bit strange, Midoriya Izuku suddenly spoke. Actually, you know too little about Suyuan. His strength is beyond your imagination. Midoriya Izuku said every word. That's right, don't think that the difference between the second and the first is not big. In fact, the distance is so big that you can't imagine it. Shoto Todoroki said calmly. Yeah, Tokiyami Fumikage on the side nodded. Ashido Mina paused after listening to their words. At first, she thought they were 3 bragging about Suyuan. However, looking at the serious expressions of the 3 of them, for some reason, I believed it without any doubt. No matter what, we must survive these last few minutes. Chong and Fumikage said. Suyuan's team is Kaminari Denki, Yaoyorozu Momo, and another one who seems to be from the support department. Although he is powerful, he cannot use his full strength with 3 drag bottles. But, even so, we should not be too careless and never fight him unless it is absolutely necessary. Shoto Todoroki analyzed. Okay, everyone nodded and agreed with what Shoto Todoroki said, but to be honest, they didn't want to fight Suyuan. Because, during the previous training, I suffered too much from him. Suddenly, at this moment, the entire ground shook directly. Immediately afterwards, spider web-shaped cracks began to appear in the surrounding ice wall. The next second, the cracks began to spread at the fastest speed, and within a few seconds, the entire ice wall began to collapse. Quote. In less than 2 seconds, the ice wall had been reduced to pieces and fell to the ground. And at this moment, the voice of Present Mike sounded in the stadium. As you can see, now, only the last 3 minutes are left, and these 3 minutes will definitely be interesting. Su Yuan from Class A has already set his sights on the 10 million points in Shoto Todoroki's team. I'm afraid this will be a tough battle. After Present Mai's words fell, warm cheers came from the audience. Now there's something exciting to watch. Shoto Todoroki is the son of number 2 professional hero S. Endeavor, and the one named Kitagawa Su Yuan is the apprentice of number 1 professional hero S. All Might. Yes, the first disciple and the second son, who is stronger and who is weaker, is probably what everyone wants to see the most. Finally, what I have been looking forward to the most is coming. It's not enough. There are only 3 minutes left. I don't know if the one named Baekwan Su Yuan can be snatched. It's hard to say. I heard from others that Endeavor's son is also very powerful. Some people even say that Endeavor's son is the number 1 student in this batch. Really or not, how awesome is it? I just heard it from hearsay. As for whether it's true, I'm not sure. Papa. As the footsteps sounded, the faces of Shoto Todoroki's team began to look solemn. Is it finally here? Midoriya Izuku said solemnly. Originally, Ashido Mina was not too scared. After all, he didn't know Su Yuan very well. However, after seeing the earth-shaking changes in the expressions of Shoto Todoroki and the other 3, an uneasy premonition arose in her heart. As we said before, we have to escape these 3 minutes. Shoto Todoroki shouted. Understood. Midoriya Izuku and the others replied. The next moment, he turned around directly. The master carried Shoto Todoroki and ran quickly. However, at this moment, Su Yuan waved his hand, and suddenly, a huge wall of sand rose from the ground, blocking their way. However, this is what Shoto Todoroki expected. I saw Shoto Todoroki bending down, his hand still half a meter away from the ground, and just waved his hand. Huge ice spikes appeared out of thin air and hit the sand wall. With a bang sound, a big hole was directly knocked out. Now, get out of here, Shoto Todoroki shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, Midoriya Izuku activated One for All's quirks, and colorful light particles directly wrapped around his legs. Lightning flashed all around, and the next moment, he kicked his legs and the entire team flew out. Have you caught up? Midoriya Izuku asked while running. Hearing this, Shoto Todoroki stared at the big hole he had just jumped into. I haven't seen him yet, Shoto Todoroki replied. Just when Midoriya Izuku was about to sigh, a figure rang directly in his ears. Here, there, in the sky. Ashido Mina shouted with a stiff face. As soon as Ashido Mina finished speaking, the 3 of them raised their stiff heads. As expected, Su Yuan was descending rapidly and rushed towards them. The current situation is obvious. Toward the end, the melee becomes more and more intense. Not to mention Shoto Todoroki's team was very nervous, even Su Yuan's team was very nervous. Because this is their first time to experience the feeling of flying. Su Yuan, slow down, you are about to hit the ground. Kaminari Denki shouted. As for Yaoyorozu Momo, Hatsume Mei was so frightened that they were speechless. Here you come, Tokiyami-kun, Shoto Todoroki shouted. Understood, Tokiyami Fumikage replied. The next moment, on his abdomen, a black shadow gradually began to grow in size and moved directly towards Su Yuan's group. Su Yuan grinned and said, I was worried about chasing you for trouble, but I didn't expect that I would show up at my door. After saying that, Su Yuan waved his hands, and a huge hand rose directly from the ground. He grabbed the shadow of Tokiyami Fumikage and slowly pulled it towards Su Yuan. No, I got caught, Tokiyami Fumikage said in a deep voice. Midoriya, Izuku and the others couldn't help but frown when they heard this. Undoubtedly, horseback fighting limited most of their strength. First of all, none of them can play as freely as before. Secondly, since they have never cooperated before, it is almost impossible for a temporary team to cooperate and achieve a tacit understanding. It's over, I'm going to be caught up, Ashido Mina shouted. Don't panic, stay calm, and adapt to changes. Shoto Todoroki turned back to look at Su Yuan and gave the instructions without forgetting. At this time, Su Yuan also landed smoothly on the ground. Boom! At this moment, the huge black shadow of Tokiyami Fumikage broke free from the sand hand released by Su Yuan. The next moment, the shadow clenched his fist and punched Su Yuan's entire team. "Leave it to me," Kaminari Denki actively requested to fight. Before Su Yuan could answer, lightning began to be released on him. However, Su Yuan seems to remember that once the voltage released by Kaminari Denki is too high, the brain will temporarily short-circuit. So he gave the instructions directly. "Be careful yourself and don't short-circuit." Kaminari Denki smiled evilly and said, "Don't worry, I know it myself." As he spoke, he waved his hands, releasing lightning directly from his hands and dodging toward the black shadow that was fisting. After the black shadow touched the thunder and lightning, he immediately shrank away. "Run!" Shoto Todoroki shouted. Then he waved his hand, and a wall suddenly rose up in front of him. At this moment, Present Mike's voice came from inside the stadium again. "There are only 2 minutes left in the game. Can Kitagawa Su Yuan win the 10 million points from Shoto Todoroki? Let's wait and see." As soon as he finished speaking, there was no doubt that the whole audience cheered continuously. "It's only 2 minutes." Su Yuan was stunned for a while after hearing this. His eyes quickly looked towards the big screen. Number 1 is undoubtedly Shoto Todoroki's. The second one is from Su Yuan. The third one is Bakugo Katsuki. Mononama Ningren is ranked 7th. Under such circumstances, his plan will fail. "Hurry, catch up. We're running out of time," Su Yuan said anxiously. Kaminari Denki didn't think much about it. After receiving the instruction, he used Hatsume Mei's equipment and shoes made by Yaoyorozu Momo. He sprayed directly towards Shoto Todoroki and the others. In less than 10 seconds, Su Yuan and the others appeared in front of Shoto Todoroki. "Come on," Su Yuan shouted without hesitation. As soon as Su Yuan finished speaking, Shoto Todoroki waved his hand, and the ground was quickly frozen. Su Yuan also waved his hand, and the ice on the ground shattered directly, leaving a clean path for Su Yuan. "It's over, they're coming," Ashido Mina shouted. "Let me do it," Tokiyami Fumikage shouted loudly. The black shadow expanded rapidly, trying to block Su Yuan's attack. But Su Yuan waved his hand and directly grabbed the black shadow with a big hand. At this time, Su Yuan was already close to Shoto Todoroki. Once he got close, there was no doubt that his speed and strength would definitely be at a disadvantage. Moreover, no one in this team can stop Su Yuan. What? Shoto Todoroki just wanted to release the other half of his strength, but what he didn't expect was that his neck was touched. When he looked down, the turban had been snatched away. The speed was too fast, I couldn't see when he took action. Shoto Todoroki thought secretly. "Let's go, it's time to find Bakugo Katsuki," Su Yuan said calmly. Midoriya Izuku frowned and shouted, "Hurry up and chase." Just when they were about to chase Su Yuan, a voice rang in their ears. "Stop chasing, we still have the 10 million points. As long as we still have this, we will still be number 1. As there was not much time left, Su Yuan quickly took the captured points and ran towards Bakugo Katsuki. Then, as agreed before, a certain number of points will be given to Monohian Ningren to snatch. This is the end of the second project, the horse riding battle. As this sound resounded throughout the stadium, in addition to the enthusiastic cheers of the audience, the other candidates stopped what they were doing. Haha, I didn't expect that, the guy from Class A, I didn't expect that I could snatch points at this critical moment. Monokuma Ningren's face looked a little ferocious, and he said to Bakugo Katsuki with a strange and proud expression. The tone was full of sarcasm. Bakugo Katsuki yawned silently. This time, he calmed down and was not as irritable as before. He said with a bored look, "You can be proud of yourself. I give this to you. Please pray hard and don't encounter us in the next project." After saying that, Bakugo Katsuki left without even looking at Monorama Nito. After hearing Bakugo Katsuki's words, Mononoma Ningren became angry and shouted at Bakugo Katsuki's back. "Don't say it's so great, I won this point in the world. Yes, you Class B are the most awesome." Bakugo Katsuki waved his hand as he spoke. In his eyes, Mononama Nito has always been a walk-on, and for a walk-on, he is too lazy to drink now. Watching Bakugo Katsuki go away, Mononoma Nito's teammate beside him said, Mononama, let's see what he said is true. What the heck, this is the result of our hard work. That guy from Class A must have said this because he was afraid of losing face. Monorama Ningren sneered. Yeah, what else? After a while, Present Mike's voice came from the entire stadium again. Okay, let's take a look at the top 4 teams now. First place, Team Shoto Todoroki. Second place, Baekwan Su Yuan Team. The third place is Team Bakugo Katsuki. And this fourth place, at the critical moment, snatched Bakugo Katsuki's score, directly rising from the place name to fourth place. And they are the Mononing People Team. The above 4 groups of students will advance to the last project. So from now on, we will enter the lunch break of about an hour. As Present Mike's words slowly fell, some audience members began to leave slowly after a while. Stadium, stairs, hey, long time no see. Let's have a cup of tea together, Endeavor. All Might stopped Endeavor, who was about to leave. When Endeavor heard this, he slowly turned his head and couldn't help but uttered the words, All Might. The last time we chatted was on a media talk show 10 years ago. Now that I see you here, I thought about coming over and saying hello. All Might smiled. Really? Then you have finished saying hello and you can leave. Endeavor turned around, stepped away, and said carelessly, You are still drinking tea, are you kidding me? I have to go to the toilet, get out of here. But at this time, behind him, All Might's voice came to mind again. Don't be so cold. Your son, the Jiao Dong boy, achieved such excellent results with less than half of his strength. It must be because of your good teaching. Endeavor frowned, and then said in a deep voice, Your apprentice has achieved good results, and you have taught him very well. All Might smiled awkwardly. Su Yuan was not trained by himself. That guy was completely self-taught. The reason why he came to Endeavor is actually very simple. He is very powerful, which is good, but when it comes to teaching others, he is really not good at it. 0. He originally wanted to ask Endeavor for advice, but he didn't expect that Endeavor would directly move Su Yuan out. If at this moment, I am asking about the secret of teaching the next generation, I am afraid it would be a bit inappropriate. With that said, Endeavor stepped forward again, not wanting to pay attention to All Might. At this moment, the atmosphere began to become weird. When he reached the corner of the stairs, Endeavor suddenly stopped again. Then he said in a deep voice, Remember this, sooner or later I will train that kid to be a hero who is above you. I created him just for this purpose. When All Might heard this, he was slightly startled and said with a stiff face, What are you talking about? Although he is currently in a pointless rebellious period, he will definitely surpass you. With that said, Endeavor stepped down the corner, and All Might was shocked by Endeavor's words. All Might stayed there for a long time before finally leaving. As for the sports festival, it is the last item left. And this event is made up of the 4 teams that finally advanced from the horse riding battle just now. A total of 16 players will participate in the 1vs1 actual elimination match. Before the start of the game, there is also an entertainment program. Of course, the 16 promoted players are free to choose to participate or not to participate. After reading the latest announced battle list, Su Yuan went to rest. He had no interest in this so-called entertainment activity. His opponent is Tetsu from Class B of Hero S. For this battle, he already knows the outcome before it even begins. Haha, I didn't expect such a fate. The first opponent I met was you. Tai J Chetty shouted towards Su Yuan's back. But Su Yuan ignored it and kept walking forward. Tai Jesh Tai couldn't help but frown. He quickened his pace and walked directly in front of Su Yuan. Am I talking to you? People from Class A, don't go too far. Tai Jesh said in a deep voice. Who are you? Su Yuan asked doubtfully. Didn't you go check out the battle list just announced? Tai J Tetsu asked curiously. Su Yuan nodded. I am the opponent you are going to fight against, Tetsu from Class B of the first grade. Tetsu solemnly introduced himself. Oh, you are the Tai J Tai. Su Yuan looked him up and down, and then continued, Then I wish you good luck. After that, Su Yuan continued to move forward. He had to take advantage of this entertainment time to take a good rest. I was exhausted from following them around all morning. You guy, Tai Tai looked at Su Yuan's back and bit the group worker. However, suddenly at this moment, a soft voice came from behind Tai. Tai, you have met a tough opponent. Tetsu turned his head slightly, and what appeared in front of him was a girl with an orange sideways ponytail, and she was none other than Kento Kazuka, the monitor of Class B of the first grade. Kentang, why are you here? Tetsu asked doubtfully. No, as your squad leader, I just came here to care about you and send you some information. Qingjia shrugged. Tai's face was touched. Thank you. Kento Kazuka smiled slightly and got to the point. Your opponent, Baekwon Su Yuan, All Might's apprentice who was announced online for the first time, you must know these simple materials. Tai nodded. Just because of this, you should know that his strength is not simple. I found out that his quirks are made of sand, and his whole body seems to be able to turn into sand. Listening to Kendo Kazuka's words, Tetsu added, okay, I understand. In fact, I have a rough understanding of his strength. He is the strongest person in Class A, and his strength is far higher. You, the recommended student in their class. I feel relieved when I see you like this. You should be more careful during the competition. Kendo Kazuoka said slowly. Don't worry, I will pay attention to it myself. I really want to know how strong the so-called strongest guy in Class A is. Tai said in a deep voice. As time passed by, the entertainment program passed quickly. The arena was completed at this time. At this time, President Mike's voice sounded in the stadium. After going through so many projects, the most attractive thing is indeed this actual combat showdown. You can only rely on your own strength. Viewers, the final event that you have been waiting for has begun. The first round is Kitagawa Su Yuan from Hero S Class A versus Tetsu from Hero S Class B. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yuan and Tai walked out of the tunnel at the same time. Then, came to the center of the ring. The rules of 1vs1 are also very simple. That is to make the opponent fall out of the field, or lose the ability to move, or force him to actively say, I surrender, then it is a victory. Go and fight without fear, because our recovery girl is always on the sidelines. Let's put aside the constraints of morality and ethics for the time being. Not over, of course, if the move endangers the opponent's life, he will be sentenced to a serious foul and will be disqualified on the spot. The cement department will be the referee. While President Mike was talking, Su Yuan and Tai had already arrived at the center of the ring. This moment has finally arrived. I have been looking forward to it for a long time. The boy from Class A is dragging him to the sky. Tetsu said excitedly. Su Yuan glanced at him speechlessly, shrugged helplessly, and said, then I wish you good luck. Chapter 101. After listening to Su Yuan's words, Tai felt inexplicably unhappy and replied to Su Yuan with a stiff face. You guys make me very unhappy. You always say words that I don't understand. Su Yuan was stunned in place for a few seconds, then the corners of his mouth raised slightly, he waved his hands, and smiled. Really? There's nothing you can do about it. It means there is a generation gap between you and me. The quirks owned by Tetsu are similar to Kirishima Eijiro's. Kirishima Eijiro's quirks are hardened, while his are steel. It can make the whole body as hard as steel. As the strongest spear, it is also the strongest shield. HMPH. Tai snorted coldly, not caring at all about what Su Yuan said, and said, let me see today whether your sand can defeat my steel. Then you really need to open your eyes wide and take a look. Su Yuan looked at Tai and Tai with a playful tone in his tone. As soon as Su Yuan finished speaking, a voice sounded in the stadium. Game start. Hearing the sound of the start of the game, Tetsu turned his body into steel and ran directly towards Su Yuan. Sure enough, everyone in the 1vs1 competition is very energetic. At the beginning, Tetsu from Class B started to attack. President Mike started the commentary. Looking at Tai who was running towards him quickly, the corners of Su Yuan's mouth raised slightly. He slowly clenched his fist, and the jet black armament hockey directly covered half of his arm. Followed by, slowly raising his fist, no more time, no less time, at this moment, Tetsuti also raised his fist and hit Su Yuan. At this time, Class B sitting in the audience saw this scene, and many people couldn't help but look at them with contempt on their faces. No way, he wants to fight hard with Tai J. It seems so. He's not looking for abuse. Tai J's quirks are made of steel. I guess they like this kind of head-to-head opponents the most. Seeing this scene, the smile on the corner of Monokuma Naren's mouth became even more proud. At this time, as the squad leader of Class B, Kentoka's face looked a little solemn. If anyone else had done it, Kendo Kazuka might have thought that this was just asking for abuse. However, it is a pity that the person standing in front of him is not someone else, but All Might's apprentice, Baekwan Su-yuan. Her intuition told her that the man in front of her didn't take quirks seriously at all. Monitor, what do you think about this? Suddenly a voice asked towards Quan Junjia. Kento Kazuka paused and said in a deep voice, I think things are not that simple. No, you must be thinking too much. I have already fought against him just now. In terms of strength, he may be a little stronger than me. Monahian Ningren said. Kento Kazuka rolled his eyes at him and said coldly, shut up. After that, she slowly walked towards the partition wall and scanned the situation of Class A. At this time, Class A was also discussing this matter. 10 seconds, I bet 10 seconds, Su-yuan will be able to knock him down in just 10 seconds. Kaminari Denki yelled. 10 seconds, I'm looking down on Su-yuan. I guess 5 seconds. Su-yuan kills him instantly. Minoru Mineta said, watching the fun and not being too big. What do you know? As long as Su-yuan is willing, that guy from Class B can step down from the moment the present mic shout starts. Tokiyami Fumikage said. Look, I'm right, as long as Su-yuan is willing, it will definitely be an instant kill, Mineta said with a smile. Kento Kazuka. At this time, Kendo Kazuka, who was outside the partition wall, was listening to their discussion, his face turned extremely dark. Before she came, she thought they were discussing whether Su-yuan could defeat Tai J Che Tai, and other topics such as quirks mutual incompatibility. But, who knows, these guys were directly discussing Su-yuan's instant kill. These guys. Kento Kazuka walked back with a frown on his face. The process seemed to take a long time, but in fact it only took a few seconds. And the arena at this time. With a bang sound. What everyone in Class B didn't expect was that Su-yuan remained motionless, good thing, while Tai J Che Tai flew out directly. He almost flew out of the ring. At this moment, the audience in the stadium burst into enthusiastic cheers. It's so shocking. He's All Might's apprentice. He almost ended this match with one punch. Present Mike yelled. Tai J Tai quickly climbed up from the ground. At this time, his face was a little stiff. His eyes cast sideways on his hand. At this time, his hand was directly numb. More importantly, his whole arm was trembling involuntarily. However, at this moment, he was more unwilling to give in. My quirks are made of steel. However, he is known as the king of hard leverage, but what? After one punch, he didn't know whether Su-yuan was okay or not. However, the bones in his fist were almost broken. There is no doubt that at this moment, Tai Jeshtai was on the verge of tears. At this time, an idea emerged in his mind. Either admit defeat directly, or continue fighting. After hesitating for a few seconds, Tai J Tetsu shook his head and finally decided to resist, because he couldn't embarrass Class B. I don't want to become a joke, someone who gives up with just one punch. When he thought of this, his whole body was filled with excitement and he recalled. Kaka. He activated quirks subconsciously, and his whole body turned silver, like steel. Ah! He roared angrily, followed closely, and ran wildly. He raised his fist and hit Su-yuan directly. Su-yuan did not dodge. In his eyes, Tai J Chetty's movements were too slow. Crack! Su-yuan directly received Tai J Che Tai's punch. I guess you also know that punch just now. Against me, your chance of winning is basically zero. After saying that, Su-yuan directly grabbed his fist, then used his strength to throw Tai J Chetty away. Suddenly, he rolled around in midair and finally fell heavily to the ground. The smashed ring directly cracked. Tap tap tap. At this time, Su-yuan stepped towards Tai J Chetty's direction. While saying, do you want to surrender on your own, or do you want me to beat you until you surrender? Tai Tai frowned and stood up unsteadily. How could I say such embarrassing words? Even if I lose, I will lose with dignity. Tai said with a stiff face. As for Su Yuan, his expression did not change much, and what Tai said was obviously expected. Ba bang bang. Su Yuan clapped his hands and said, "What you said is very courageous, but I am a bit special. I will not be gentle just because of what others say." Tai frowned and almost lost his breath. "I'm not saying this just to get your pity." Su Yuan shrugged and waved his hand. "Don't get me wrong, I didn't mean that." Click. Tai Tai's whole body became steel again and he quickly ran towards Su Yuan. "Okay, the entertainment time has passed. Now, it's over." As soon as Su Yuan finished speaking, he stepped forward and punched directly. The speed was so fast that Tai and Tai instantly reached out to block it. Bang! Tai flew out instantly, then his center of gravity became unstable and he fell to the ground, starting to rub against the ground. After stopping, he quickly stood up. Sure enough, just as he thought, Su Yuan launched an attack at this time. He jumped down from midair and kicked Tetsu with all his feet. There was a bang directly above the ring, followed immediately by a sound that flew out and finally hit the wall. At this moment, the entire audience came to an abrupt halt, and all the audience stared at the wall of the auditorium with widened eyes. It's so amazing, the game was over in an instant. As President Mike's voice fell, the audience returned to enthusiastic cheers. Tai Zhejian fell out of the field, Baekwon Jun advanced to the second round. Midnight announced. As soon as the words fell, warm cheers came directly from the audience. In the final project, the first person to advance to the second round is Baekwon Su Yuan from Class A. President Mike shouted loudly. "I didn't expect. Tai classmate has no power to fight back at all." One of the men from Hero's Class B said. "Yeah, I thought Tai quirks would be able to restrain him to some extent, but I didn't expect that the guy from Class A defeated Tai without even using his quirks. It's too strong. This battle made me realize the gap between Class A and Class B." "No. You said it wrong." Suddenly at this moment, a soft voice sounded. Everyone heard the news and turned around. The person who said this was none other than the squad leader of Class B, Kento Juka. It's not the gap between Class A and Class B, but his strength and the distance between him and the others in Class A. This man is simply a monster. No one can defeat such a monster. The more Kendo Ikika spoke, the more solemn his expression became. As she said that, she cast her eyes on Mononoma Ningren and told him, "Mononoma, you have to be careful, your opponent is also from Class A." Monokuma Nito hesitated for a few seconds, then smiled and said, "Don't worry, I have already fought against Bakugo Katsuki in the horse-riding battle just now, and his strength is only average. Without Kitagawa Su Yuan's help, I am afraid that he has been eliminated." When everyone heard this, they took a look at Wujian Ningren. "Now that I put it this way, you don't have to be beaten down when you go on stage. You can't afford to be embarrassed." A man from Class B joked. "Who are you looking down on? Use my quirks and copy his quirks. I don't know who will lose and who will win." Monokuma Nito retorted. Kendo Kazuka glanced at Mononoma Ningren speechlessly, and then said in a deep voice. "That Bakugo Katsuki is not as strong as Su Yuan, that's for sure, but even if he is not as strong as Su Yuan, it means that his strength is very weak. Don't be too confident, or you may capsize." 5-0. Mononoma Nito smiled and explained. "Did you only see that when he joined forces with Su Yuan, he was bullied a bit miserably, but when the one named Bakugo Katsuki was left alone, I took it from him. A lifeline. Really, just treat it as if you were lucky enough to snatch the points from him, but this time it's 1 vs 1, not a team battle." Kendo Kazuka said helplessly. Originally, she just wanted to remind Mononoma Ningren not to be careless, but now that she continues to talk about this situation too much, he will definitely misunderstand that everyone looks down on him. "How can this be just luck? I won it by strength," Monahian Ningren said in a deep voice. Okay, in short, just one sentence, don't be careless." Kendo Kazuka shrugged and muttered. This time, the sports festival was attended by more than just media reporters, spectators, etc. Of course, there are many professional heroes from the firm, and their purpose here is also very simple. Choose the student you like and make him your assistant. Don't think about it, you guys. If you want that Baekwon Soo-yuan to be your assistant, you first have to go past All Might's 10 meters. After all, he is All Might's apprentice. Let's stop thinking about it. You're not the same person yet. Just give up. Another professional hero retorted. Just kidding, I have always been a fan of All Might. Not long ago, we worked together to catch a wanted criminal. Haha, why don't we join hands together? You can't beat me, and then All Might comes. The originally silent professional hero revealed with a smile. Nonsense. At this time, Soo-yuan, after winning the battle, did not return to the audience stand above their class, but returned to the lounge. The reason is very simple, because the next battle is not interesting, but the next battle will be very interesting. Bakugo vs. Monorama Nito. Soo-yuan murmured, and then sighed. Hey, what kind of luck does Bakugo have? He really hit it. It seems to be a blessing he cultivated in his previous life. However, somewhat unexpectedly, Soo-yuan saw Endeavor in the passage leading to the lounge. However, Soo-yuan pretended not to see it and walked straight towards the lounge. Baekwon Soo-yuan. Suddenly, Endeavor spoke. Soo-yuan stopped and then turned around. Is something wrong, Mr. Endeavor? Soo-yuan's expression is still very calm, and there is no such depressing feeling when talking to Endeavor. Haha, Endeavor sneered. As expected of All Might's apprentice, your performance really surprised me. Mr. Endeavor is joking, how can my playful skills be put on the stage? Soo-yuan said calmly. If I remember correctly, All Might doesn't have an office. How about you, are you interested in working in my office in the future? You and Shoto Todoroki are classmates, so you happen to have a companion. Endeavor got straight to the point. Office. Soo-yuan smiled and continued. Thank you Endeavor for your kindness. I have my own plans for my future. You don't need to answer me so quickly. Aren't you and Shoto Todoroki going to Country M to be exchange students? It won't be too late for you to make a decision after you come back as exchange students. Endeavor said slowly. Soo-yuan was stunned for a moment, and finally replied, okay. If there is nothing else, I will leave first. Endeavor nodded, and then Soo-yuan turned around and walked towards the lounge. When Soo-yuan disappeared from Endeavor's sight for several weeks, Endeavor clenched his fist tightly. All Might, I will never allow such a thing to happen. Obviously, what Endeavor is referring to is that he cannot surpass All Might, and he is absolutely not allowed to do so. His own son cannot surpass All Might's apprentice. However, it is a pity that Endeavor would never have thought that in the future, being the second child of 10,000 years would also be a position to be proud of. In the corridor, the sound of hurried footsteps was heard. Click. The door to the lounge was pushed open directly. Soo-yuan, who closed his eyes to rest, subconsciously opened his eyes. What appeared in front of me was none other than Yaoyorozu Wanden. Bakugo-san's competition is about to start, won't you, go watch? Yaoyorozu Momo said breathlessly. Soo-yuan paused and said in disbelief, no way, so fast. Indeed, it has not even been half an hour since his own game ended, and he has already reached the third game so quickly. The people in the second game are not from our class, so I don't know much about them, but they seem to be quite powerful. They defeated their opponents in just a few minutes. Seeing Soo-yuan's disbelief, Yaoyorozu Momo explained the process of the second game. Oh, Soo-yuan replied, then stood up lazily. It doesn't matter whether you watch the other battles or not. Bakugo can't miss this one. Yaoyorozu Momo rolled her eyes at Soo-yuan speechlessly. Of course she knew what Soo-yuan was thinking. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come to remind Soo-yuan. Then let's go, Yaoyorozu Momo said. Stadium. During the second fight, the middle ring collapsed, but it has now been repaired. As the beacons erupted from the four corners of the arena, President Mike's voice once again came from the stadium. Everyone has been waiting for a long time. The next ones to start fighting are Bakugo Katsuki from Hero S Class A, and Monokuma Nito from Class B. As this voice fell, the audience burst into warm cheers. While talking, Bakugo Katsuki and Monokuma Nito both walked to the ring. Bakugo Katsuki still looked the same as before, with his hands in his trouser pockets and a look of contempt on Monokuma Nito. It seems that you and I are quite destined. Guys from Class A. Monorama Nito spoke first to Bakugo Katsuki. Indeed, it seems that God is on my side. I have longed for you. Bakugo Katsuki grinned. This smile made people shudder. Really, this time it's 1 vs 1. If you're floating, your teammates can't save you. Monorama Ningren also laughed. In order to prevent unexpected situations, Mononama Nito copied his squad leader's Quirk's big fist before starting. Listening to Mononoma Ningren's words, Bakugo Katsuki just smiled and said, "It seems that what that guy Su Yuan said is right, you have no ability except gibbering. This is really a different kind of compliment." Monokuma Nito said and quickly ran towards Bakugo Katsuki. When he reached a certain distance, he jumped for life, and then his right arm began to grow larger. In the blink of an eye, a huge fist hit Bakugo Katsuki. The whole movement was very sensitive, without any sloppiness at all. However, Bakugo Katsuki can still easily dodge such an action. He jumped back, and the next second, where he was standing, a huge fist fell down. Boom, sound. The cement in the center of the ring was shattered. At this time, Bakugo Katsuki also launched an attack. Black smoke was crackling on his palm. Drink. Bakugo Katsuki directly activated quirks and released it in the direction of Monokuma Nito. Monokuma Ningren quickly dodged, followed closely, and launched an attack from the side. A huge fist hit Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo Katsuki felt slightly surprised and subconsciously stretched out his hand to block it. Bang! He took dozens of steps back to the side. At this moment, Monohian Ningren's arm returned to normal. Haha, it seems it went more smoothly than I thought. As he spoke, he looked slightly at his sparkling palms, followed by a weird smile. Apparently, with just the touch, he copied the quirks blasted by Bakugo Katsuki. Single quote. Bakugo Katsuki, who received the blow just now, was almost fine. He just took a few steps back due to the impact. You fool, it's time to kill you. As Bakugo Katsuki said this, he slowly accelerated and ran towards Monokuma Nito. Of course, in terms of speed and strength, Bakugo Katsuki is higher than Monorama Nito. Seeing that Bakugo Katsuki was attacking him, Mononoma Nito was not too panicked. He immediately launched the explosive quirks and attacked Bakugo Katsuki who was attacking him. He said excitedly, "This is really a good quirks, it's so easy to use." Bakugo Katsuki, on the other hand, dodged while approaching Mononoma Nito. Seeing Mononoma Nito using his quirks, there was no doubt that his anger increased a lot. "You fake, have you finally realized what you are doing?" With that said, Bakugo Katsuki jumped up in midair and shouted. Durian Big Bang. As soon as Bakugo Katsuki finished speaking, a black vortex gradually formed in midair. Mononoma Ningren frowned when he saw Bakugo Katsuki falling from the sky. After all, it was just as Bakugo Katsuki said. He is just a fake, he can only copy quirks, but he cannot copy the fruits of other people's labor. Therefore, the best choice at the moment is to dodge Bakugo Katsuki's moves. It's just a pity that Bakugo Katsuki's speed has exceeded Monoma Nito's expectation. Just as he was about to dodge to the side, Bakugo Katsuki's attack had already reached him. Above the arena, a golden light suddenly shone, followed immediately by a violent explosion. Thick black smoke filled the entire arena. Inside the auditorium, there was a faint vibration. At this moment, the cement manager sitting not far from the ring was frightened. He immediately jumped up, and then his face changed drastically. What's going on? It doesn't look like a very conspicuous move, but it has such a degree of damage. With that said, he hurriedly walked towards the ring. He couldn't see anything in the billowing smoke. You brat, you don't want to die. The cement manager muttered and cursed. At this moment, Bakugo Katsuki waved his hand, and a puff of black smoke suddenly appeared from his palm, dispersing the surrounding black smoke. In just a few seconds, Bakugo Katsuki and Monokuma Nito reappeared in everyone's sight. However, Monohian Ningren was already lying in the center of the pit, not knowing whether he was dead or alive. The cement company hurried forward, checked it, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Recovery girl, come here quickly, the cement company shouted. Bakugo Katsuki glanced at Monokuma Nito, who was lying on the ground, and finally put his hands in his pockets and slowly left the field. Mononama-kun lost the ability to resist. Bakugo-kun advanced to the third round. Midnight announced. As soon as the words fell, warm cheers came directly from the audience. In the third round, Bakugo Katsuki from Class A advances to the next round. It seems that this year's Class A is very strong. In both games, Class A and Class B were the blasters. Present Mike shouted loudly. Class A viewing seats. Oh, I guessed that the result would be like this, but I didn't expect that Bakugo Katsuki would let him go so easily. Su Yuan looked at Bakugo Katsuki, who was slowly leaving the field, and smiled slightly. Yes, that's right, they are all growing. Su Yuan is very satisfied with this. If he hadn't appeared, now, the strength of one of them would have reached the current state. Midoriya Izuku is the most obvious example. Without the appearance of Su Yuan, in the original work, he inherited All Might's quirks during the entrance test. But due to his own appearance, he was many months ahead of schedule, and even now, he can completely adjust his quirks. However, Su Yuan always believes that everything has a good side and a bad side. Bakugo Katsuki's strength far exceeds the strength of that person in Class B. If we continue to fight slowly, there is no point, Shoto Todoroki said in the 10 Emperors. Hearing this, Su Yuan smiled slightly. Perhaps this is true for normal people, but with Bakugo Katsuki's character, it's difficult. But, didn't he just do this? Shoto Todoroki said. Everyone will grow. This is a good thing. Su Yuan replied. At this time, the faces of everyone in Class B were not very good. We in Class B won 2 games and lost 2. I'm afraid we're losing face. One of the men from Class B said. Oh, that guy among all the monsters is too careless. If he just fights harder, he may not lose. You think so, squad leader? Kento Kazuka frowned. This is good, it allows us to recognize the difference between Class A and Class B. Their madness is not just pretending, but they really have this ability. Hick, I'm telling the truth. Don't doubt it. Class B is far behind Class A in terms of overall strength and individual strength. Su Yuan looked at the battle table. The battle behind Bakugo Katsuki turned out to be between Midoriya Izuku and Shoto Todoroki. No matter who wins between these two, the next person to fight is Bakugo Katsuki. And if you win against Bakugo Katsuki, it will be against Su Yuan. If anyone wins a battle, the final battle will be for the championship. However, in Su Yuan's eyes, the only ones worth watching are the few in his class. The other classes are too weak, and they can only come here to make up the numbers. As time flies, the battle between Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki has ended in the blink of an eye. Bakugo Katsuki-san fell to the ground. Shoto Todoroki-san successfully advanced to the next round. As Midnight's announcement sounded, warm cheers came from the stadium. At this time, Bakugo Katsuki was lying on the edge of the already mutilated ring, looking at the blue sky with wide eyes. Just now, he was just a little bit close to turning defeat into victory. Unfortunately, there is no if. Dear spectators present, due to the severe collapse of the arena, the next match will take place in an hour. Present Mike said to the crowd. Although this news is disappointing, there is nothing we can do about it. The battle between Bakugo Katsuki and Todoroki just now was a feast for their eyes. Even Endeavor was shocked by his son's strength. For a moment, he had a feeling that Shongying's education seemed to be very good. Inside the lounge, fighting against Bakugo Katsuki has consumed all your energy. The next game will be between you and me. Can you recover? Su Yuan asked Shoto Todoroki, who was sitting in the chair. It is impossible to say that it has been restored to its full state. However, I have earned this opportunity to duel with you. I will do my best to cope with it, Shoto Todoroki said calmly. The reason why he fought so hard with Bakugo Katsuki was because the two of them knew that whoever wins can openly compete with Su Yuan. Shoto Todoroki fought hard for it, so he must cherish it. It's up to you, but don't worry on the field, we are leaving for Country M tonight and you won't be seriously injured. Su Yuan joked. Shoto Todoroki smiled slightly. However, that boy Izuku Midoriya, this time I have 2 arms thrown in, but fortunately, I have the help of the recovery girl, otherwise I feel that something may go wrong when I go to Country M. Su Yuan said calmly. At the mention of Country M, Shoto Todoroki's eyes flickered, and then he stared at Su Yuan and said, "What do you think about going to Country M to be an exchange student?" I checked the information, except for the Brave Academy, that school. Besides, there is another name. What name? Su Yuan asked. Hell Academy. Hell Academy. Isn't this normal? There must be a price to pay for someone to be reborn. As he said that, Su Yuan's eyes met Shoto Todoroki's. At this moment, Su Yuan felt that Shoto Todoroki knew something. What do you know? Su Yuan asked. Shoto Todoroki avoided Su Yuan's gaze and smiled faintly. What can I know? I just saw other people commenting on the internet that it is a Hell Academy. Su Yuan didn't ask any further questions, and just said, "Have a good rest, and don't worry about it later." More than an hour later. Well, the battle that everyone has been waiting for the most is here. Su Yuan Kitagawa, who is both a hero S from Class A, and Shoto Todoroki, who is also a hero S from Class A, are standing together. What kind of sparks will it emit? Let's wait and see, Present Mike shouted. At the same time, Su Yuan and Shoto Todoroki entered the ring from different directions. This battle may be the most exciting duel in the first grade this year. A man in the audience said. Yes, one is the apprentice of the number 1 professional hero S and the other is the son of the number 2 professional hero S. I really want to know what kind of sparks there will be. After waiting for so long, the most anticipated thing is finally coming, and I'm a little excited myself. Class A Auditorium. Hey, why are you here, Bakugo-san? Kaminari Denki looked at Bakugo Katsuki suddenly standing next to him and said involuntarily. At this time, Bakugo Katsuki's whole body was wrapped in bandages. Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes towards Bakugo Katsuki. Yes, Kachan, you need a good rest now. Midoriya Izuku muttered. You need to take care of it. Bakugo Katsuki retorted angrily. In Bakugo Katsuki's eyes, he should have been the one standing at the top of this match, but he didn't expect that it was because of a mistake. But yes, this game is more exciting than playing on the field. Anyone who doesn't watch it will definitely miss this year's sports festival. Right, Bakugo, Kaminari Denki said with a smile. Bakugo Katsuki glanced at him speechlessly, and then said in a deep voice, "Shut up, you idiot, I'm being interrupted from watching the game." At this time, the center of the arena. I remember the last time I played against you was about a week ago. Su Yuan said. Yes, but after more than a week of training, I feel that I have become a lot stronger. This time, I hope you can fight seriously. Shoto Todoroki said in a deep voice. In fact, he is quite conflicted now. He wants to see Su Yuan's strength clearly, but at the same time, he is afraid that he cannot bear it. Su Yuan stared at him for a few seconds, and finally smiled. Okay, anyway, the recovery girl is here, it's okay to get a serious injury. After hearing this, Shoto Todoroki had already made preparations for action. Now, all he needed was for Midnight to shout the start command. As for Su Yuan, he was still standing there, waiting for Shoto Todoroki's attack. Start. With Midnight's loud shout, Shoto Todoroki used his legs and ran towards Su Yuan as fast as possible. Should we start the physical skills PK first? That's good. Su Yuan muttered, then raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and the next moment, he ran towards Shoto Todoroki. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the center of the ring at the same time, and their fists collided. Suddenly, there was a flow of air around him. The next moment, they started to take action again. Bang bang bang, bang bang bang. It's amazing. The game has just started and they are already fighting fiercely. However, it seems that they don't intend to compete with quirks. Present Mike began to explain to the audience while analyzing their actions. Of course, Su Yuan must be above Shoto Todoroki in terms of physical skills and the strength of quirks. Within a few minutes, thick beads of sweat gathered on Shoto Todoroki's face. Su Yuan's breathing also began to become unstable, but Su Yuan's breathing was not much different from the beginning. At this time, the professional hero S on patrol were watching the live broadcast of the game. No way, it's almost the finals, what's going on with such a physical fight? Mount, Lady complained. In her eyes, the further the competition goes, the more intense it should be. Obviously, Su Yuan and Shoto Todoroki, who fight hand to hand, disappointed her. There is nothing wrong with this, but they are a one-day system and they played a few games before. I am afraid that their physical strength and mental strength are already far behind now. According to this situation, I'm afraid the last game won't be worth watching. M.I. Lin Shenwei said. Mount, Lady was stunned for a moment and nodded. That makes sense, but it's okay. We have found our assistant candidate. Not only them, since Su Yuan and Shoto Todoroki only used taijutsu to fight for more than 10 minutes. In the auditorium, many people in Shi couldn't stand it anymore. What are you doing? What are you doing? Children are fighting. One of the spectators finally couldn't stand it anymore, stood up and shouted towards the field. The professional hero sitting in front slowly turned around and said, "Sir, please be quiet." Although physical skills may seem boring, but, for a professional hero it is also very important. When the man saw the professional hero speaking, he frowned and did not dare to speak so loudly. But he still cursed. What the hell, this fight is not as exciting as my son's fight. Class B auditorium. Oh, I'm really disappointed. Shouldn't this be the most exciting game? How could it be like this? Yes, I'm so disappointed. Monitor, is this the peak showdown you mentioned? Kento Kazuka frowned. Quiet, the game is still going on. At this time, the paddock. Do you want to continue the physical battle? Su Yuan suddenly said. Shoto Todoroki hesitated for a few seconds and said, "It's almost done. Let's compete normally with the remaining energy." Su Yuan smiled. That's okay. I'm going to. Kitagawa. Su Yuan. Shoto Todoroki shouted loudly. In the meantime, he raised his foot slightly, then immediately stepped on the ground. A burst of cold air was released directly, and everything it passed was covered in ice. With a sound of boom, the entire arena was frozen. Huge ice spikes stood up, and the ground shook. Everyone was speechless at this moment. The knot is over. It ended in an instant. It was too strong. He was Endeavor's son. The inheritance is too powerful. It seems like it's not over yet. After all, the referee hasn't announced it yet. There is no need to announce that the entire arena is frozen. He is trapped inside and cannot get out. The audience started talking again. Class B auditorium. Is it over? This quirks is too powerful. In the midst of their discussion, the corners of Kendo Kazuya's mouth slightly raised. This is the beginning. After everyone heard this, they couldn't help but look at Kendo Kazuka. Monitor, what are you talking about? Yeah, you haven't just watched this game, right? It's almost coming to an end, and you've just begun. Kendo Kazuya rolled his eyes at them speechlessly, and then explained, according to the flow of the game, this is indeed coming to an end, but their battle has just begun. Just began. As everyone said this, their eyes slightly turned to the ring. That's right, the real battle between Class A and Class A has just begun. Kendo Kazuoka said in a deep voice. 153. At this time, President Mike's voice also came from inside the stadium. Is this the end? Did Shoto Todoroki just open up and defeat Kitagawa Su Yuan with one blow? As soon as President Mike's voice fell, the frozen arena above the arena made a clicking sound. That's right, it's the sound of ice cubes breaking open. As the traces of cracked ice became more and more numerous, they became faster and faster. Finally, with a clicking sound, a ball of sand came out. Sand mixed with ice shards were flying everywhere. At this time, the professional hero sitting in front quickly moved out to protect the audience in the auditorium, resisting the oncoming sand and ice slag. A ball of sand floated in the air, and slowly, it formed a sand giant with hands and feet. And Su Yuan is standing on the giant's forehead. This is really fake. Giant. Oh my god, this is so perverted. This guy from Class A is really a monster. Squad leader, you are so right, this is the real beginning. It's really surprising. In the first few minutes, it seemed that I couldn't hold on anymore, and the next moment, it turned into this. Mount. Lady watched the live broadcast, and her attitude changed 360 degrees. Sure enough, All Might will not accept others as his disciples casually. He must have taken a fancy to Baekwon Su Yuan's talent. Mi Lin Shenwei said solemnly. Hey, how about we recruit him to our office? Mount, lady said. Jungle Shenwei rolled his eyes at her, curled his lips and said, it would be nice if you thought it was that simple. Others may still have the possibility, but, even if we open it under good conditions, it is almost zero. In his eyes, Su Yuan's strength is so outstanding that there are absolutely countless firms that want him. And how could someone with such a mediocre reputation and such good talent in his own firm be willing to stay in such a studio? Makes sense. Mount, lady nodded. It's so shocking. Student Baekwon Su Yuan directly used quirks to break out of the ice, and then used his own quirks to create a giant made of sand. Present Mike shouted excitedly. In the stadium, cheers rang out again. Shoto Todoroki, are you ready? I'm coming. Su Yuan stood on the giant's forehead, crossing his hands on his chest and said. Come on, shouted Shoto Todoroki. As soon as he finished speaking, the giant reached out to the ground, and then slowly, a hammer made of sand appeared out of thin air. Drink. The giant hit him directly, and Shoto Todoroki quickly ran to the giant's feet in a panic. Boom. With one hammer blow, half of the arena was gone. This blow also frightened the cement company who was sitting not far away and was working as a referee part-time. He stood up quickly and came to Midnight's side. Do you need to terminate the game? I'm afraid this is a bit. The cement secretary stopped talking mid-sentence. Midnight frowned and said, wait a minute, I'll ask the principal for his opinion. The cement division nodded. Hurry up then, time is a bit tight. One hammer blow can take up half the arena. If it hits someone, they will be shattered to pieces. Midnight walked to a corner and quickly dialed the principal's phone number. Before Midnight could speak, the principal said, you are calling this time, it must be related to the competition. Midnight hummed and said hurriedly, this next time, it is very likely to cause the death of one of the parties. It's okay, let them continue competing. But, believe me, nothing will happen. Baekwon Su Yuan seems to be in chaos, but he actually knows what he is doing. Midnight was helpless. I know what to do. A minute later, the entire arena no longer existed, and even the surrounding ground had large cracks. There are countless pitfalls, big and small. Hoo ho ho. Shoto Todoroki's breathing has begun to become very rapid. One side of his body is burning with fire, and the other 10 are steaming out. Su Yuan stood on the giant's forehead, staring at Shoto Todoroki. Obviously, Shoto Todoroki has reached his limit now. If he continues fighting, he may not only damage his body, but may also suffer unnecessary injuries. Let's end it. That's enough for today. There will be many opportunities in the future. Su Yuan said, and the sand gathered by the standing giant slowly became relaxed. Immediately afterwards, the next moment, everything fell onto the ring with a clatter. The entire arena instantly turned into a beach field. Of course, this was not caused by so-and-so using quirks, but by Su Yuan himself who had released the control. Shoto Todoroki laughed slightly at himself. It seems that I am still not qualified to let you use your true strength. Su Yuan smiled and didn't want to explain too much. What you said is right, but it's wrong, and it's wrong, but it's right. Su Yuan actually said it very clearly. The nature of sparring and fighting against villains is different. The battle must be fair. For example, in this battle with Shoto Todoroki, Su Yuan did not use Haki, nor did he use the elementalization of the Sha fruit. All in all, it is simply using the ability of the Sha fruit. If he was fighting against villains, the nature would definitely be different. His moves were deadly, and whatever he was afraid of, he would use them specifically. So at this stop, it is correct to say that Su Yuan has no strength. Of course, for Shoto Todoroki, this is a bit confusing, and it must be a bit difficult to understand it for a while. What do you mean? He looked at Su Yuan with confusion and asked. It doesn't mean anything. The general meaning is that it's almost enough. I don't know what's going on with Country M, so there's no need to go there with injuries. In that case, it won't be worthwhile. Su Yuan said calmly. Shoto Todoroki's pupils shrank violently, as if he remembered something. That's right, that's right. With that said, Shoto Todoroki took back the released quirks, followed closely, and said in a voice. I surrender. As soon as these words were heard, everyone in the audience looked at Shoto Todoroki with astonished expressions. Who is that? That's the son of the number 2 professional hero S. He didn't fight until he fell, but just gave up. For a moment, many viewers were stunned. It was not until Midnight's voice sounded that they came back to their senses. Shoto Todoroki admits defeat and advances to the finals with less than 5 yuan. As soon as Midnight finished speaking, warm cheers suddenly erupted from the audience. Oh, it's a pity. Just when I saw the excitement, I didn't expect that Shoto Todoroki would take the initiative to admit defeat. Kaminari Denki pouted. He was quite disappointed with this result. Bakugo Katsuki on the side rolled his eyes at him and said, "Idiot face, what are you talking about? Can't you see that half of the face can't hold on anymore? Even if the fight continues, no matter what, it is impossible to last for more than a few minutes." Kaminari Denki yelled at Bakugo Katsuki and couldn't help but look at him with a grimace. "Anyway, the game ends like this," Tokiyami Fumikage said. Isn't there another final?" Kaminari Denki said. "Actually, in the eyes of many people, this is the last game. If there are no accidents, Su Yuan will be the champion," Yaoyorozu Momo said slowly. "Wait, what do you mean there is no surprise that he is the champion? Among the first years here, who is his opponent?" Bakugo Katsuki looked at Yaoyorozu Momo and said. Yaoyorozu Momo rolled his eyes at Bakugo Katsuki. There was no doubt that this guy had definitely misunderstood what he meant. "What I mean is, if he doesn't take the initiative to admit defeat, the championship will be his. It's so clear that you don't even understand." Who knows when you say this? Why don't you just say it like this? Why do you want to say it so profoundly? Bakugo Katsuki retorted. Deep, Kaminari, Yaoyorozu Momo asked. Kaminari Denki waved his hand, with an expression that I understood immediately, and said, "No, it's very simple, I will understand it as soon as you say it." "You see, right." Yaoyorozu Momo also waved his hand and retorted to Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo Katsuki's mouth began to tremble with anger, and he sat down on the chair, his face looking as ugly as possible. Time flies by so quickly, it's already 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This year's sports festival ended an hour ago. While they were still indulging in this sports festival, Su Yuan and the others had already packed their luggage and rushed to the airport, preparing to fly by Jiaoli to Country M. When you get off the plane, a teacher will naturally pick you up. This teacher knows the principal and went to Country M to work as a teacher a few years ago. All Might explained. "Got it, teacher," Su Yuan replied. "In the final analysis, don't leave school if you have nothing to do. Country M is even more chaotic than our Country R. In addition, everyone should stay calm and don't cause trouble. In a month, I hope to see you different," All Might said. "Clear, as long as you know." As he said that, All Might looked at the 5 of them with turbid eyes, and a smile emerged from the corner of his mouth. It seems that he has already seen the future, what they will look like when they return as brave men. "Okay, it's getting late, you guys hurry in." After hesitating for a few seconds, All Might continued to speak, but his eyes fell on Midoriya Izuku, showing a hint of worry. However, among the 5 of them, only Midoriya Izuku's quirks are unstable. Excessive use of quirks will still have side effects. "Then we'll leave first," Su Yuan replied. All Might didn't speak, just nodded. Looking at their leaving figures, All Might muttered, "The trajectories of these children are somewhat similar to mine. W plus WBW at." After All Might graduated as a hero, he also went to Country M, where he became very powerful before returning to Country R. Country M, airport. Su Yuan and the others got off the plane, went outside, and saw a tall, thin man holding a sign, and the sign said, "Welcome the 5 secret guards." "Hello, are you Teacher Halma?" Su Yuan walked up to him and asked. Halma glanced at Su Yuan and the 5 of them, then revealed a smile and said, "There are exactly 5 of them, you must be the young guys from Shongying." Su Yuan nodded. "Well, 1 year Baekwan Su Yuan. 1st grade, Bakugo Katsuki. 1st grade, Shoto Todoroki. 1st grade, Midoriya Izuku. 1st grade, Tokiyami Fumikage." Hamal waved his hand and said, "From now on, I will be your teacher, Halma. I'll spare your trouble for the rest of the day," Su Yuan said politely. Halma just smiled and then said, "Don't worry, the next days will be a so-called paradise." Before coming, your principal should have told you about the School of the Brave. I told you, but not in too much detail. That's not important. You will know it by yourselves gradually. Okay, it's not too early. Let's go to school with me first. Everyone nodded and followed Halma out of the airport. On the road, there was silence all the way. Everyone looked at the scenery outside the car in silence. About half an hour later, 2 black cars finally stopped. Su Yuan and the others got out of the car. Looking at the school gate that was bigger than Shangdiang, Nishiwan paused for a moment. This is bigger than your heroes. Hammer suddenly said. The gate is fine, but I don't know the equipment and floor space inside. Su Yuan said calmly. Ha 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 ha, Halma laughed loudly. You guys are really right. Although the gate of the Brave Academy is larger than that of your heroes, the area is indeed much smaller than that of heroes. Because, the training grounds of the Brave Academy are all outside. However, if we talk about it in general, the training grounds of the Brave Academy can save 100 heroes. 100, Mr. Halma, are you kidding me? Up pointing arrow. Bakugo Katsuki on the side couldn't help but said carelessly. Hamal walked up to Bakugo Katsuki, patted him on the shoulder, and smiled strangely. Young man, I'm not kidding. Although there was no big problem with these words, Bakugo Katsuki was actually horrified when he saw Hamal's expression. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Come with me quickly. The other freshmen have already gathered together. If you go late, I will get punched by the old man again. Hammer said. After walking for about 10 minutes, Su Yuan and the others came to a vast field. At this time, the venue was full of people with colorful hair. Some of them were mutated by quirks, and there were also many people who were neither humans nor ghosts. The Academy of the Brave recruits students from all over the world. Quirks has highly developed students, and then the principals of their schools will be selected. Having them come here and pass the entrance test. Is there still an entrance test required here? Bakugo Katsuki asked. Of course, otherwise you see, there are nearly 1,000 people here, and we only need 20 people. Halma said. 1,000, just 20 people. Su Yuan and the others were stunned. They thought that coming here would be considered admission, but what they didn't expect was that there was no need to go through selection. So you 5 can come on, Halma said with a smile. Chapter 111. Seeing Halma's smile, Su Yuan fell silent. However, as for the fact that entrance examinations were still required, the principal and All Might probably didn't know. If he had known, he would have told himself long ago. I understand, Teacher Harma, we will definitely work hard. Su Yuan said calmly. Well, that's good. You can just line up with them. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. After Harma said this, she ignored Su Yuan and the others' reactions. Just turn around and leave. Why didn't anyone tell us that being an exchange student still requires assessment? Bakugo Katsuki cursed in a carefree tone. My guess is that the principal and others don't know, otherwise, how could they not tell us? Shoto Todoroki was not as excited as Bakugo Katsuki, but analyzed calmly. You're right. Anyway, everyone, please relax. If you fail the test, the worst possible outcome is a one-day trip to Country M. Su Yuan said jokingly. After everyone heard this, they felt a lot more relaxed. Okay, it can't be a one-day trip to Country M. Bakugo said calmly. At this moment, a lift platform slowly rose from the top of the crowd. Standing on the stage was a thin young man, and looking at him looking sickly, I was really afraid that he would be knocked down after a while. However, even though he looked like this, what he said was clearly heard by nearly 1,000 people in the audience. Welcome to the Academy of the Brave. I am your invigilator today. There is only one assessment for today, and that is the big fight. The 20 people standing in the end can stay in school. As for the others, they can go back. As soon as the invigilator finished speaking, a heated discussion began among the crowd. This is really a difficult test. Yes, those standing today are all the most talented students from all over the world. It is really not easy to find a way out of a crowd of nearly 1,000 people. The competition is too great. It seems there is not much chance. God bless me. I heard from my teacher that as long as I can successfully become an exchange student in this school, I will gain super combat power. Come on, the so-called super combat power is just tapping out your own quirks. You're right, The price we need to pay to help you dig up quirks is beyond our imagination. Quiet. Suddenly, at this moment, a voice appeared on the lifting platform. A pressure was directly transmitted to everyone, but compared with Su Yuan's conqueror's haki, he was still at a disadvantage. All of a sudden, everyone around became quiet. Everyone, please don't interrupt me when I'm speaking. Otherwise, you will directly lose the opportunity to advance. Next, using this vast venue as the battlefield, the 20 people standing in the end can successfully advance. As for the rules, that is, you can't kill people, so let's get started. The invigilator said calmly. As soon as the words fell, everyone was startled at first. They didn't expect that the competition had started so soon, and most of them hadn't even saluted yet. They all still carry it with them. Boom! With an explosion in the middle, a brawl involving nearly 1,000 people began. Lean back. At this moment, Su Yuan shouted at Izuku and the others. Everyone listened to the order and leaned into a corner. This time the battle did not have the same restrictions as usual. The only thing was, Zhu Wei's ability to fight means he loses. Let's not fight yet and conserve our energy, Su Yuan said in a deep voice. Of course, most people here think like Su Yuan. Most of those who are fighting now are forced to fight. Suddenly, at this moment, a slightly fat man looked at Su Yuan and the others and laughed disdainfully. It seems that there are a few cowards hiding here. The brave and fearless warriors that the Brave Academy wants are not cowards like you. So, let me take you home. In the team, Su Yuan stood in the front, and Midoriya, Izuku and the others behind them watched quietly without saying a word. Because they all now know deeply that everything is subject to Su Yuan's command. What's up, Qian Zhao? I'm so scared that I don't even dare to fart. The fat man saw Su Yuan and the others and didn't make any move. I thought they were frightened by such a scene. Su Yuan's eyes retracted from the entire battlefield, and finally fell on the fat man. Suddenly, he spoke about Daohu. Bakugo. As soon as he finished speaking, Bakugo Katsuki ran quickly and came directly in front of the fat man. Cracking sparks erupted in his palm, followed by thick black smoke rising slowly. You disturbed our leader, Captain. When the fat man heard this, he couldn't help but burst into laughter, and continued, then your captain is really a coward, hiding behind and shrinking back. Is his quirks a turtle? As he spoke, the slightly fat man's figure gradually began to change, and 2 black horns grew on both sides of his head. And his body began to become burly, his clothes burst, and long black hair appeared all over his body. Looking at it, it's almost like a big black cow standing on 2 legs. I'm telling you, my current strength is 10 times what I was just now. If you are as weak as you, I'll punch you. Before even a word could be said, Bakugo Katsuki let out a big bang. With a sound of boom, the big black cow flew out directly, and then fell heavily to the ground, making a big hole. He stood up cursing, and just took a step towards Su Yuan, but saw Bakugo's weird smile. He stopped, nodded, and said, okay, just wait for me. As he said that, he quickly turned around and headed in the other direction. Su Yuan and the others didn't bother to argue with him, because this was the time when they needed to preserve their strength. No one knows whether there will be many powerful enemies here, and they have to be wary of this possibility. I hope we can have smooth sailing, Midoriya Izuku said with a somewhat nervous tone in his eyes, because after hearing the words of All Might and the principal, he had already acquiesced in his heart. As long as he gets out from here, he will quickly become an outstanding professional hero. Just relax. If everything goes well, I will be an exchange student. If not, I will go on a 1-day trip to country M. Su Yuan said calmly. For him, to be honest, it feels the same if he can get married, and he feels the same if he can't. It seems that there are many people who choose to preserve their strength like us. Shoto Todoroki said solemnly. Su Yuan looked around and saw that indeed, there were at least a few hundred people who were just like him, choosing to preserve their strength. This is normal. After all, whoever can stand at the end will be the final winner. Tokiyami Fumikage said. Previously, Su Yuan was not paying attention to who chose to preserve his strength like himself, but he was observing whose strength could stand out in this match. However, He has not discovered yet that most quirks are very common, but they have been developed to a certain extent. Not long after Tokiyami Fumikage finished speaking, suddenly, the entire venue began to vibrate at a distance. This is an earthquake, Midoriya Izuku said with a frown. Seems to be. No. This should be someone else's quirks, Shoto Todoroki said solemnly. That's right. Su Yuan also agreed with this statement. The ground began to shake more and more violently, and the ground cracked open. Due to the high speed, many people fell directly into the cracks in the ground. For a moment, the entire field began to become chaotic. At this time, another middle-aged man jumped onto the lifting platform and said to the invigilator, "It seems that the talent and strength are about to bubble up. Well, this cannon can blast out more geniuses," the invigilator said in a deep voice. "That makes sense. His quirks are of great development value," the middle-aged man continued. "Nah, have you seen that corner?" The invigilator pointed his hand in the direction where Suwu was. "Did he get blown up so soon? However, I heard that guy from Harma said that this person seems to have come from the heroes of Country R," the middle-aged man said calmly. "Shongying, huh, it's a very famous school," the invigilator said without changing his expression. "It's just that the sand quirks doesn't seem to be able to dig. Although he may be relatively powerful now, he has developed the quirks to a certain level and cannot go up," the middle-aged man said. "That's what you say, yes, but compared to other garbage, he is not eye-catching," the invigilator said in a deep voice. "Well, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. You remember to handle the following matters by yourself. Remember, the 20 places are the last ones standing, and the other 10 are selected for those who have been eliminated and have strong development capabilities." Middle-aged the man gave instructions. The invigilator said nothing, but it was regarded as acquiescence. Due to this large-scale shock, a group of people swept away, and almost all the people on the next level were eliminated. And those who are still standing are of course relatively powerful. The number of people has dropped by more than half. Is it time for us to take action? Bakugo Katsuki suddenly said from the side. Su Yuan rolled his eyes at him, and then joked, "What? If you can pass the level without fighting, why bother yourself?" As soon as he finished speaking, Midoriya Izuku quickly added, "You're right, Xiaosheng, if you can pass the test without fighting, let's not fight. There is no need at all." Bakugo Katsuki glanced at Midoriya Izuku and yelled, "Do you think they are idiots? It won't be long before they, Little Seven, will come looking for us even if we don't come. It won't take long, it's already here," Su Yuan said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Midoriya, Izuku and the others all turned their attention to the front. At this time, a man wearing a white shirt was walking towards Su Yuan. Behind him were several people of similar age to him. It was probably estimated that they, like Su Yuan, came to the Academy of the Brave in a team. "Everyone, be careful, these people are not simple," Su Yuan said seriously. Everyone nodded. "Hello, I'm an exchange student from Country Z," the man in the white shirt said with a grin. Country Z. When Su Yuan heard this, he couldn't help but feel touched. He had previously thought that the author of Woing only included Country M, but what he didn't expect was that Country Z also existed in this world. Su Yuan smiled slightly. "It seems that we are quite destined brothers." "Really?" The man in the white shirt glanced at the people behind Su Yuan, and then continued, "Huh. It seems that we are really destined. Your team has 5 people, and our team has exactly 5 people. Quote. Want to fight?" Su Yuan. Shoto Todoroki asked softly. "It's impossible not to fight. If I guessed correctly, the man in the white shirt is the one who caused the shock just now." Su Yuan chuckled. When everyone heard this, their expressions suddenly became serious. To be able to create such movements on a large scale, the strength is definitely not weak. Moreover, the most important thing is that the faces of the 5 of them are all very relaxed. "I guessed it right, brother." Su Yuan stared at the man in the white shirt and asked, pretending to be uncertain. The man in the white shirt didn't intend to keep it secret, after all, it wasn't a secret. "Your guess is correct, but I think my guess is also correct. You should be the one closest to my strength in this game." The man in the white shirt grinned. "What? The strength is closest to that of Su Yuan? How strong does that have to be? Is he also a monster? If that's really the case, it would be really terrible. Yes, Su Yuan's strength is obvious to all of us. Undoubtedly, Midoriya, Izuku and the others had expressions of disbelief on their faces. But, on the contrary, that's not what the man in the white shirt had in mind. How is this possible? Yi Tian, are you kidding? You are perfect in every aspect, even quirks is perfect. Yes, the teachers say you are the son of God, the most perfect person. He is about the same age as you, so how can he be close to your strength? If so, wouldn't he also be the son of God? Yi Tian, a native of Z country, is the strongest student in history. Whether it is quirks or other aspects, he has reached the level of perfection. In country Z, people call him the son of God. Of course, he fully lives up to the title of son of God. I'm just making a guess, but I still need to try it out. Yi Tian loosened the tie around his neck and continued. You guys should not get involved in case there are still hidden masters on the field. Don't worry, Yi Tian, you are definitely the strongest person on the field. Yi Tian ignored it. After all, his ears were calloused by such words. Are you ready? Yi Tian looked at Su Yuan. The corner of Su Yuan's mouth raised slightly. I'm quite interested in what the strength of the man called the Son of God is like. Then try it. As soon as Yi Tian finished speaking, he immediately rushed towards Su Yuan as fast as possible. Su Yuan also rushed towards him as fast as possible. Everyone punches at the same time. Boom! The two fists collided together, and suddenly, a powerful air flow swept directly around them. He was able to take a punch from Yi Tian, and nothing happened to him. This is too strong. In so many years, this is the first time I've seen someone able to receive Yi Tian's punch without any backlash. I remember I also had a fist fight with Yi Tian a few years ago. As soon as he said this, the other three eyes turned to him. Real or fake? Of course it's true. The results of it. It's broken. It seems that he is really not that simple. He can actually punch Su Yuan. Tokiyami Fumikage said with a serious expression. This is the first time Tokiyami Fumikage has seen Su Yuan's serious expression in such a long time. Yes, the son of God that those guys mentioned is indeed not a boast. It seems to be quite worthy of slaughter. Bakugo Katsuki added on the side. Su Yuan. Can he win? Midoriya Izuku said worriedly at this time. As soon as he finished speaking, several eyes stared at him. Midoriya Izuku was suddenly caught off guard and quickly explained, I just asked. He will win. He will not lose, Shoto Todoroki said calmly. Bakugo Katsuki also laughed. Although I really want to see him lose, there is no way, he has no ability to lose. At this time, on the lifting platform, the Invigilator's eyes were fixed on Su Yuan's direction. The most interesting battle on the field is about to begin. As expected of a man who is called the Son of God, he is indeed quite capable. Su Yuan withdrew his fist and then jumped back. Yi Tian's movements were the same as Su Yuan's, he bit back his fist and jumped back. There are very few people of my age who can take a punch from me and not be hurt at all. Yi Tian said, and the next moment, he revealed a weird smile. But the competition just now was about strength. I just don't know if your quirks can compete with my quirks. The words fell. Yi Tian started to dance with his hands and shouted loudly, the earth shook. The next moment, a big crack opened on the ground where Su Yuan was standing, and he fell directly. Here, Yi Tian shouted again. Boom! The ground closed again as if it had spiritual power. As expected of Yi Tian, he was killed in one move. It's too powerful. Although its power is almost as strong as Yi Tian's, quirks is a flaw. Yeah, strength doesn't mean anything. Only if quirks is strong is he truly strong. Oh, this is also expected, Yi Tian is invincible. Midoriya Izuku and his friends. Undoubtedly, their faces were also very solemn. Su Yuan, he should be fine. Midoriya Izuku was the first to say. The others remained silent and looked at the ground quietly. If Su Yuan still did not move after nearly a minute, then they would all attack to rescue Su Yuan. On the lifting platform, the Invigilator showed a hint of disappointment. I thought it would be a very interesting game, but now it seems that it is so disappointing. Tap tap tap. Yi Tian took 3 steps forward, opened his mouth and said to the ground, You still have 30 seconds. As long as you admit defeat, I will rescue you. But if you don't admit defeat, I can't guarantee that you will survive. As soon as Yi Tian finished speaking, he immediately responded from underground. Thank you for your concern, but if you want to win me like this, it may not be too simple. When Yi Tian heard this, he frowned and was about to use other tricks. At this moment, he suddenly found that the ground was loose. Looking down, the ground surface turned directly into sand. What's going on? This guy. Yi Tian frowned. At this time, in front of him, a pile of sand slowly piled up, slowly turning into a human form, and finally turned into Su Yuan. In this short period of time, the entire vast field has turned into a desert. Everyone's fighting stopped at this moment, and they were completely confused. Of course, especially Yi Tian's team, their jaws almost dropped in surprise. What's going on? What did this guy do? He actually turned this place into a desert. What are his quirks? I have a bad feeling. Me too. Even the Invigilator, who had been extremely disappointed just now, was stunned at this moment. In just a short moment, the surrounding area could be turned into a desert. This quirks was so powerful that it was suffocating. I have a rough understanding of your quirks. For others, it is very powerful, but for me, it is still garbage. Su Yuan said calmly. But, yes, one cheats and the other recharges money. If you don't encounter cheaters, it's your father who recharges money. If you encounter cheaters, it's useless for you to recharge money. Yi Tian's eyes changed, the Invigilator's eyes became solemn, and for some reason, his body trembled involuntarily. Then he said calmly, now all of you, please observe the changes in the entire scene. Don't miss any corner. I think this kid's current attack is very weird. No need for the Invigilator to tell, everyone else clearly knew that Su Yuan's mouth was now raised and he said, you still have a chance to attack now, but if you wait a little longer, you will have no chance at all. Looking at Su Yuan's expression, Yi Tian gritted his teeth and said, everyone come together. The members of Country Z behind him heard for the first time that Yi Tian needed them to take action. They were a little surprised but still obeyed absolutely. The figure rushed out quickly, and various quirks started to operate. They usually had a lot of quirks to cooperate in private. Bakugo Katsuki yelled, you want to fight, I will fight with you bunch of fools. Who? The moment Bakugo Katsuki rushed out, cold air floated out with the sound of breathing, and the sand in the entire sand followed the ice air very cooperatively. Boom! A glacier shot out faster than Bakugo Katsuki, and the whole earth trembled with the cold air. Shoto Todoroki's shots were very direct and fast, but Bakugo Katsuki had known this for a long time, and used his quirks to blast a man who was scattered. The glacier dispersed all existences, and when they were torn apart, his consciousness was still a little dazed. The moment the man saw Bakugo Katsuki rushing over, he was about to raise his hands to attack, but the sand below moved directly, entangled and bound the man's whole body. What the hell is this? All the muscles in his body exploded, heat was rising, and his eyes were on fire, but it still had no effect. The man's quirks is burning and he uses his own body to launch burning attacks, but at this moment, the sand does not change at all under his own burning, and still binds him tightly. The temperature of this flame is almost 300 to 400 degrees, why hasn't it melted yet? The surrounding ice cubes seemed to be melting a little. When he complained, the sand was swallowed up in an instant, and a loud noise was made. Deal 1. Bakugo Katsuki's attack was simple and direct. The super high burst instantly knocked out the opponent. He punched the opponent away and was carried away by the Invigilator in midair. Yi Tian yelled, don't mess up the formation, join together first. Don't even think about it. Tokiyami Fumikage's eyes changed. The black shadow behind him shot out like a ghost, and Shoto Todoroki's ice cubes attacked the other side. They were still interrupted no matter what. At this moment, a green afterimage suddenly appeared in the middle of the two. This appearance made them completely unexpected. Midoriya Izuku looks like a little rabbit and charges forward with their attacks. 20%. He punched out, his fist made waves, and the sand on the ground condensed out, followed by a punch. Another man was eliminated, and in the blink of an eye, two were eliminated. On the other hand, on Su Yuan's side, no one was lost. The glaciers slowly melted away, and the deserts disappeared. Why? Yi Tian looked at Su Yuan in front of him a little strangely. He could obviously attack in one go, so why did he stop? There's no point in fighting. How about we cooperate? We just fought. You should know the strength of our side, right? I won't let you down. Su Yuan raised the corner of his mouth and stretched out his hand. Yi Tian knew why they were able to kill two of his teammates in an instant. It was entirely because of Su Yuan's strange terrain. He controlled the entire field. Standing on the sand, he felt like he was being stared at by the opponent. This feeling is very uncomfortable, no matter who else it is. The most important thing is that my quirks is at a disadvantage in front of Su Yuan. The two quirks want to get closer. If they continue to fight, their side will definitely lose. Bakugo Katsuki burned his own spark and said, "Why are you talking so much? Just go ahead and get them done. There are many people around watching." Midoriya Izuku whispered, "Xiao Shang, I think it would be better to cooperate with them. After all, the other party is very strong. There are 20 places in this competition. There must be many cooperative teams later. We really need outside ABBA to help." Midoriya Izuku considers things that are more long-term and stable. It is true that their strength is very strong, but don't forget that the people in this competition are from all over the world. They don't know what the other party is capable of. If they take action rashly, it will be detrimental to their own side. That's not a good thing. Shoto Todoroki nodded and said, "I agree with Midoriya's statement." Tokiyami Fumikage nodded. Bakugo Katsuki could only remain silent angrily, and looked at Yi Tian cursingly. "What are you planning to do?" "We join you." Yi Tian took a deep breath and had to admit Su Yuan's strength and restraint on himself. Anyway, there are 20 places this time, so he can make it steadily. To be eliminated because of Su Yuan would be too much of a loss. Su Yuan chuckled and said, "Those who know the current affairs are heroes. We will not let you down. After all, we are all perverts here." He glanced at the people behind him. After these guys grew up, they became sensational beings, especially Midoriya Izuku. Yi Tian smiled bitterly and said, "We have lost this competition. From now on, I and my team members will have control over you. Let me introduce our quirks to you." In a few minutes, they all exchanged materials and information. Yi Tian's ability is similar to that of Su Yuan, except that he controls the earth and looks more hockey, but it is a pity that he met Su Yuan who only had the Sha fruit. A cute little girl with twin ponytails named Qingyu is an auxiliary quirks who can temporarily enhance a person's quirks ability. Another strong man, King Kong, quirks has a name similar to his own, and he has the ability to transform. After using quirks, he is almost like a King Kong, with powerful combat power. Not bad quirks, then let's just wait for the prey to come. Su Yuan's eyes were full of teasing as he looked at the figure slowly approaching in the distance. The ground was shaking, and Yi Tian said coldly, "There should be 20 people. The number is well controlled. It seems that they knew the rules from the beginning. 20, tisk tisk, tisk tisk, they look worthy of slaughter." Bakugo Katsuki's hands were already exploding. The crackling sound made Qingyang a little scared. "Hey, strengthen the quirks for me, I'm going to kill them," Bakugo Katsuki said to Qingyu who was dodging. Qingyu looked at Yi Tian, who nodded and whispered, "Bless him." Bakugo Katsuki, who had just finished the blessing, was like a wild horse running wild, rushing out in the blink of an eye, with sparks still flashing across the void, without any fear of the one in front of him. Go to hell. At this time, Bakugo Katsuki rushed in regardless of any external factors or his teammates. It is true that now, after being blessed, he is like a little son, rushing into the opponent's lineup in a breath, and opening a channel violently. The people on Yi Tian's side may not know Bakugo Katsuki's attack mode and fighting style, but it's different on Su Yuan's side. Don't look at Bakugo Katsuki's recklessness, but he is actually shrewd at heart. Knowing how to play a rhythm, Su Yuan directly activated his control, and the sand transformed into reality, followed by Todoroki and Zhao Dong beside him. "Midoriya, remember to control your power," Su Yuan whispered to the shining Midoriya Izuku, knowing the power that the opponent's body can now bear. Midoriya Izuku nodded. "Okay, please be safe." As he rushed out, a black shadow followed, and Tokiyami Fumikage launched a shadow attack in the dark side created by Su Yuan. Seeing their sudden attack, Yi Tian beside him immediately knew the gap. The gap between them was not just 1 or 2 points. Don't look at Su Yuan's lack of direct attack. Among the entire team, Su Yuan was simply the core. He the shroud helped all the team members. The people of Shangying are indeed not simple. If this is the case, we must work harder. Qingyu, don't leave my side. I will protect you personally. All your quirk's blessings are placed on Bakugo Katsuki. As for King Kong, you can attack and charge without worry. I will join forces with Su Yuan to assist you. Yi for some reason, Tian believed in Su Yuan and glanced at Su Yuan. Today, Su Yuan is calm and composed, without any change, and even the corners of his mouth are slightly raised. This made Yi Tian even more confused about the Su Yuan in front of him. What kind of person was he? After he took a deep breath, quirks began to move, and he controlled the earth. Unexpectedly, when he moved, he felt that his earth was being pushed by a force, and he became more free. He glanced at Su Yuan next to him in surprise. Su Yuan smiled lightly and said, although our quirks are incompatible with each other, they actually complement each other. Therefore, if my quirks cooperate with yours, we will be invincible. After saying this, Yi Tian nodded and said, then let's have a good fight. The venue was changing, modified by the two of them, and earth-shaking changes spread across each other's battlefields. Their opponent was a little strange for a moment. He was caught off guard and shouted, what kind of madman is this? A man is rushing over like this, stop him quickly. The sound of explosions continued, and within a breath, a body was blasted directly into the ground, the earth cracked, and bursts of sparks burned in the ground. The sea of fire was rolling, and the red eyes flashed in it, and a demon in the flames slowly walked out. With his hands flashing with sparks, Bakugo Katsuki yelled, come on. Let's keep fighting. It turns out that this team was the force behind the encounter with the guy at the beginning, and he actually called a team with good fighting ability. In this case, I would be rude. My character is not one of flattery and tolerance. Let's get started. Looking at his smile, the man who was beaten away at the beginning couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. But after thinking about the power behind him, he gained some confidence, activated his quirks, and faced Bakugo Katsuki in front of him. Let's work together. Before the man could say the next words, an iceberg appeared behind him, splitting their battlefield and directly separating the man. Only a few centimeters away from him, Shoto Todoroki whispered, I'll leave this guy to you. Hey, what do you mean by this guy? Just one. Are you looking down on me too much? Bakugo Katsuki saw Shoto Todoroki appearing in such a handsome appearance, and he was unhappy for a moment. Their appearances were so different, and he felt guilty in his heart. Not balanced at all. Bakugo Katsuki's current anger plans to vent on the man in front of him, and these guys are brought by this guy in front of him, so everything can be traced to him. Go to hell. He spoke violently and attacked with murderous intent. The man's muscles are bulging. It's not easy for anyone to be able to come to this place. At this moment, he is fully activated, and he is several times bigger than at the beginning. His muscles exploded, and he punched out hard. The sound of the punch was whistling, like a tiger roaring out. The void in front of me was opened a little, and the power inside rolled out, flowing into it continuously, and shot out in a straight line. Bakugo Katsuki is not afraid at all. The attack power of his own quirks is extremely strong. With Qingyu's enhancement, needless to say, he can simply beat the man in front of him. Boom! The collision between them caused a loud noise, and 10 large gaps appeared in the glacier and iceberg. 2 figures walked out of it. Bakugo Katsuki dragged the man who was instantly killed with one move and walked out of the gap step by step. At this time, Shoto Todoroki was gasping for air, and looking at the frost on half of his face, Bakugo Katsuki finally understood that the battle in front of him was over. 3. You actually solved more than me, you ice and fire man. Bakugo Katsuki was very unconvinced now. He looked at the frozen existence, then abandoned the man and went to find the next target noisily. But in fact, the battlefield has been divided. Midoriya Izuku's attack is sharp and as flexible as a rabbit. It can't catch him at all, even if it can't solve the villains. There is also Tokiyami Fumikage's attack to hit. Their opponents were completely eliminated, and the remaining 10 people were trapped in the city wall from which they could not get out. There were earthen walls in all directions. They were enveloped by the joint attacks of Yi Tian and Su Yuan. They were unable to get out at all, and the attacks had no effect. What kind of ghost city wall is this? There's nothing you can do against him. The man wearing the gloves punched him a few times, but it had no effect, and he could even feel the backlash caused by it. It made his mouth numb slightly and felt very uncomfortable. Among them, a man holding a sword said coldly, "In that case, use absolute brute force to open it." His voice was like a bell, powerful and steady, giving people an inexplicable pressure. Most people would never have such pressure. This is the leader of this team, Hans Buden. Hans Bu came from a secondary college in country Y, so he was naturally not as good as the students from the college above, but his own strength and combat effectiveness were not comparable to anyone else. Especially in terms of destructive power, he can even destroy a small area with a full blow, while Quirks has Explosion, a post-generation Quirks with extremely powerful explosive power. Seeing Hans Bu walking out slowly, everyone around him couldn't help but get out of the way. Yi Tian whispered, "Very good pressure. It seems that this guy is someone who has been on the battlefield." Battlefield. Su Yuan suddenly felt a little confused. What is a battlefield? Perhaps you in the country don't know it well. In other countries, war is a matter of time. There are many Quirks on the battlefield. It seems that other countries will send some students to the battlefield for training. It's all a life and death experience, but some countries don't agree with using students as weapons on the battlefield. Yi Tian whispered. The Hans Bu in front of him was definitely not as simple as he looked on the surface. The aura is completely different. Yi Tian can think of one thing, that is, the Hans Bu in front of him has been on the battlefield and experienced the life and death situation. His horse-killing knife was too big, almost 2 meters tall and weighing about 200 to 300 kilograms. It was not something that ordinary people could lift, but it was as light as nothing in his hand. His eyes turned blood red, there was a sound inside his body, a faint blood red appeared and wrapped around his hand, the sword that killed the horse changed slightly and then turned blood red. He was dyed red between breaths, and after taking a look at the scene in front of him, Yi Tian knew that Hans Bu's attacks should be very strong. There are many Quirks with strong attack type, but not many are really powerful. At this time, a ray of fire fell from the sky, and a cursing voice came out, "You will all be beaten to the ground by me." Bakugo Katsuki's energy seemed to be inexhaustible, and he rushed over the almost 100-meter earth wall in just one breath, flying over with the help of his own firepower. It should be this guy, let's do it at the same time. None of the 10 people trapped here was easy, and they all started to launch their own attacks. Gravity. After a little fat man turned on his Quirks, it turned into a big mountain. The gravity formed was like a big hand pressing down. Bakugo Katsuki was squeezed from all sides, and even Hanabi was pressed down. This Quirks came out and really restrained him, slamming him to the ground. This gravity is still increasing, and in an instant, an even more terrifying gravity appears in the earth. Let's see whose gravity is stronger. Yi Tian, who controlled the earth Quirks, directly burst out with his own attacks, violently suppressing the opponent's Quirks. The two opposing Quirks collided together at the same time. The void in front of him made a squeezing and tearing sound, but Yi Tian was called the Son of God, and Quirk's control in this aspect was not comparable to that of Stone Man. The Stone Man felt that his whole body was being grabbed, and his own gravity was entangled by a more terrifying gravity. It became difficult to breathe, and the thick shell of his body was completely torn apart at this time. With a roar, a cannon was fired fiercely. Bakugo Katsuki, who was standing in the distance, squeezed his own attack and exploded, killing a Stone Man in an instant. But now he is gray and completely careless. If he had to be more careful, he wouldn't be in such an embarrassing situation. Bakugo Katsuki continued to take action, and at this time there were sands of sand following him. Attack him. The person controlling the long-range attack Quirks began to target Bakugo Katsuki. Thunder attacks came out from all directions, intending to erode Bakugo Katsuki. Unexpectedly, sand appeared from an unexpected place and directly wrapped Bakugo Katsuki, absorbing and digesting all the thunder in his breath. Su Yuan's assistance was indeed timely. Yi Tian on the other side did not expect this. This reaction was a bit scary. It should be the gap between them. Bakugo Katsuki's figure instantly appeared in front of the long-range attack power user. The explosive attack in his hand instantly surged out, when a man with a large shield was about to rush over to resist. A crack in the earth appeared under his feet. The cooperation between Yi Tian and Su Yuan instantly eliminated each other, without any ability to resist. Boom! Both sides exploded at the same time, and the flames burned. Bakugo Katsuki's physical strength is almost exhausted. It is not easy for one person to do this against so many strong men. You brat, you've made us so embarrassed. Go to hell. A man with a tiger head rushed over quickly, and the claws in his hands formed an invisible air wave. You couldn't see clearly at all, but you could feel it. The cutting power above. Bakugo Katsuki's eyes changed, and he could feel murderous intent in the other person's eyes that he really planned to kill himself. You clearly promised not to kill the other party, but the other party actually planned to do this. My physical strength is almost exhausted. It is very difficult to leave quickly. I can barely use sparks to open a small distance, but my body can hardly resist the attack of this wind and wave. Multiple wind waves opened up, and Bakugo Katsuki crossed his arms to protect his vital areas. He was cut open in many places, blood spattered, and wounds appeared on his body. At this moment, reinforcements arrived, and a giant King Kong fell from the sky like a meteorite, ravaging an area. The ground was as fragile as paper tofu, and a big hole was opened. King Kong charged forward without saying a word, and the tiger-headed man who had planned to continue chasing was instantly knocked away. The moment he was thrown away, a wall of sand was successfully formed, and the opponent's back was hit on it, making him feel a little dazed. King Kong rushed over quickly, pushed back, and squeezed with two powerful forces at the front and back at the same time. Poof! The tiger-headed man spat out a mouthful of blood, unable to block the two sudden attacks. Even if his own attack was powerful, it would be useless here. Being killed instantly, the tiger-headed man's body fell limply to the ground, back and forth. In just a few seconds, a titan descended from the sky. Half of the 10 people here have been eliminated, and the remaining half are protecting Hans Bu-Shi. Hans Bu-Shi opened his eyes at this time, and his whole body was wrapped in red, and even a bit of dark color appeared, as if thousands of blood were condensed in it, and murderous intent rushed towards his face. This was the baptism of blood. The horn of war was blown by his sword, and the wailing from the edge of the sword could be heard, which was extremely harsh. Let you taste the bloody attack. You flowers growing in the greenhouse. His eyes turned dark red at this time, and the breath of his whole body changed. Dragging his sword, he struck hard at the earthen wall and chopped it down hard. The earth shattered, and an illusory knife shadow dozens of meters long shot out. The earth wall did not appear to be that thick and unbreakable in front of him. Crush it to me. Like a demon's low cry, the shadow of the knife fell in the endless dark red. Crush it under my attack. Everything will be reduced to ashes. At this moment, Hans Bu-Shi could not see what he was before. He was like a ferocious beast, venting everything he had and condensing everything he had. After this blow, the earthen wall was in danger. Yi Tian glanced at Su Yuan. He smiled lightly and said, "Let him come over. I want to see if this sword is more powerful, or my weapon is stronger. Isn't this too risky for you?" Yi Tian looked at the beheader who was charging towards him. Although he felt that Su Yuan was very powerful, he was not at the same level after all. You must know that the opponent must have experienced a real life and death battle when he came out of the battlefield, and Su Yuan came out of the heroes. There is no way to compare the two combat experiences. Don't worry, you can use your quirks to protect everyone. The next battle may be a bit exciting. Su Yuan rushed forward and faced them head on. He didn't care at all about this slash of tens of meters. Hey, what's going on? That weird kid is planning to die. The inspector outside panicked instantly. There are many good people here, and they can't lose anything. Although from among thousands of people, choose 20 people. But this is only the number of people who entered the Academy of the Brave. What about the remaining people who failed? Doesn't it have any effect? No, there are so many companies around who are watching, and their abilities and effects are all seen. After the end, even if you fail, as long as your abilities are outstanding, you still have a chance to join a place similar to the Brave Academy. Among the people they focused on was Su Yuan. They originally thought that Su Yuan would continue to use the earth wall to block. They could feel the strength of the earth wall. Even if it could not block the Zan Ma Dao, it would never be killed by the Zan Ma Dao. Kill. But they didn't expect that the other party gave up the earth wall and chose to take action themselves. Still charging forward with bare hands, isn't this looking for death? What should we do? We can't directly intervene in this battle, but Baikuan Su Yuan is a good young talent, and I don't want him to be killed. I originally thought this kid was very smart and had a chance to pass the exam successfully, but now it seems he was just joking. Many invigilators began to feel regretful and confused. What on earth is this Su Yuan doing? At this time, everyone was stunned. Even Hans B. Yushi, who used the sword to attack, was completely shocked. Endless knife shadows fell, and the earth was cut open like tofu. Su Yuan was just a tiny existence in it, without any ripples at all. When everyone thought that Su Yuan was seeking death, the sword shadow of the Zanma Dao actually made a crisp blocking sound at this moment. The ground was shattered and sunken, and the airflow became chaotic, scattering everywhere like wild horses running wild, and even the earth wall behind them was torn open with several gaps. The wind and waves mixed with the shadow of the knife continued to tear apart the surroundings, and the entire field was torn open by ruthless tearing. Just the scattered shadow of the sword has such power, but what about Su Yuan, who resisted the Zanma sword attack head-on? Really dead? But this is impossible, because these knife shadows are all deflected by Su Yuan, all of which are attacks exploded by Su Yuan. His eyes are extremely cold. The whole body is shrouded in armed colors, with a metallic luster from top to bottom, and it looks quite strong. His punch shattered most of the sword shadows. Only he and Hans Bushi knew what the spreading sword shadows meant. This is interesting. I didn't expect that someone could take my attack with bare hands and be destroyed instantly. Hans B. Yushi laughed, and sure enough, the next second, his attack collapsed, leaving him with no ability to resist. Like an iceberg melting, a figure slowly emerged from it, Su Yuan. Baikuan Su Yuan slowly walked out, in the broken sword shadow minister. Everyone was stunned. No one thought about the scene in front of them. Looking at Su Yuan, who was unharmed among the fragments of the knife shadow, they couldn't figure out how they survived this exaggerated horse-killing sword. Still seems to be fine. Baikuan Su Yuan is now completely engraved in everyone's eyes. Yi Tian's mouth has grown, and Qingyu behind him can't close her mouth from ear to ear. His big eyes were watery as he looked at Su Yuan among the debris. He couldn't help but murmured, "You're so handsome." "He's even more handsome than you, Captain." Yi Tian had nothing to say. After all, Su Yuan now had a certain degree of lethality against boys, not to mention girls. The strong would always appreciate the strong. Under such an attack, Yi Tian was confident that he could withstand it, but it seemed impossible to resist it so calmly and unscathed. Su Yuan and Hans B. Yushi looked at each other, and they both saw what they longed for in each other's eyes. "You want to practice with me?" To each other, "Don't you also want to practice swordsmanship?" The two looked at each other and smiled, and then when no one could recover from the previous attack, a more violent attack broke out. Bakugo Katsuki, who was in the farthest place, had a sudden change in his heart. He had seen such a powerful existence, but there was only one person, All Might. Although they have not yet reached the realm of the first person, All Might, they are not much different now. They are powerful and their attacks are clean and neat. It is impossible to imagine that they are only at the level in high school now. Can this be considered a professional hero? Midoriya Izuku returned to Yi Tian and looked at the battle in front of him expectantly. He never thought that he could still see attacks at this level. This kind of battle is very precious. Shoto Todoroki is still taciturn, but his eyes change slightly, and these people are all affected at this time. King Kong came back from a distance, and you could see a lot of wounds on his body. These were the attacks the two of them had just fought. Even if there are defenses like King Kong, they can't resist it. The ability of the armed color is perfectly stimulated, and his hands are as hard as the opponent's sword, or even stronger. Hans B. Yushi is not simple at all. With such a heavy and huge sword in his hand, there is no extra movement when swinging it. It is fast and has strong reflexes. The sword seems to be part of his own body. Moreover, every attack comes with its own quirks, explosion, and each attack carries an explosion, which instantly knocks Su Yuan away. At first glance, Su Yuan is now at a disadvantage, and it is difficult to advance even if he is suppressed. Su Yuan said calmly. The color of seeing and hearing is turned on. The second hockey color is turned on, which can predict Hans Bushi's attacks within a certain period of time, and the opponent's attacks become more violent, and both sides take action. The opponent's attack barely appeared in his eyes, and he could infer a few points. The Zanma sword's attack began to fail, and the explosion effects caused by it slowly dissipated. Changed, Hans Bushi was very sensitive and instantly realized that the Su Yuan in front of him was different. A qualitative change had occurred. Such changes were not a good thing for him. After all, he did not understand the other party. Each other is a blank slate. The more bizarre the method appears, the greater the threat to the other party. Taking a deep breath, Hans Bushi knew that if he continued to restrain himself, he would be easily eliminated by the other party. Then this time he will lose his identity. He plans to enter the Academy of Braves in order to prove his strength and ability. Although he belongs to a secondary academy in Country Y, he will definitely not be inferior to those superior guys. His aura also changed, and Su Yuan found that he was no longer facing Hans Bushi, but a ferocious beast. The Zanma sword completely disappeared and turned into an afterimage. Unknowingly, his body moved and he instinctively avoided the opponent's attack. A huge gap appeared where he originally stood, and the sword energy above spread directly over a distance of 1,000 meters. The power has increased by more than one level, and the opponent has completely exploded. You can clearly feel it by looking at this sword. A drop of sweat appeared on Su Yuan's forehead. If he hadn't turned on the hockey color, his body had a certain instinctive reaction, and he might have been able to resist the power. Although under the protection of the armed color, I won't have much problem, but it will definitely not be comfortable to bear it. Taking a deep breath, Su Yuan knew that the other party had used all his strength. If he continued to hide, he would still be defeated. But after turning on his own attack, the battle is over, and it is even an instant kill situation. I hope you won't be hit. The corners of Su Yuan's mouth raised slightly, with a hint of sympathy in his tone. The sword is invisible, but you can feel the pressure from it. The murderous intent is overlapping, and the phantom is twisted in the void. You can feel various negative forces from it, even turning into the sound of a ghost to surround Su Yuan. Su Yuan remained unmoved. No matter how concentrated the opponent's attacks were, they could not affect Su Yuan in the slightest. The surrounding sand is gathering together. As long as you can see the sand, it is condensing, changing the terrain and scene. Use the same attack method as at the beginning. Yi Tian behind him could tell it at a glance, because when he first dealt with Yi Tian, he used this attack method. Change the terrain and directly turn the terrain into sand. Looking from a distance, it looks like a desert, completely immersed in Su Yuan's scene field. But the other party has no choice. He can only continue to attack. The attack he has concentrated at this moment has only one way. Either he continues to attack, or he stops at his own expense. The scene in front of you will not stop at your own expense, so all you have to do is attack with all your strength, use up everything you have to break through the scene and quicksand in front of you, and defeat Su Yuan. Final blow. Each is the last move, using their strongest attacks against each other to see who can win in this attack. Su Yuan said calmly, "Goodbye." In the blink of an eye, the scenes in all directions froze, and even the other party didn't know what was going on. The world was swallowed up, and the murderous aura in the sword was instantly wrapped in quicksand. Even if the explosion exploded layer by layer, but the quicksand is only getting stronger. It's like a black hole, constantly pulling at Zangama sword and Hans Buju absorbed in it. Hans Bushi's eyes changed. He tried hard and used his body to break free from the shackles inside, but found that all this was in vain. All his strength would only be part of the suction force. He couldn't control himself and fell into the quicksand. His murderous aura was completely swallowed up, and his hands holding the sword were bounced away. The quicksand made him weak. There is no way to crack this weird attack at all. It is simply at your mercy. After all, I lost. In the quicksand, through a gap, each other's eyes met. Su Yuan smiled and said, "It's not that you are not strong, it's just that I'm too perverted." With a snap of the fingers, the quicksand disappeared, and the sand turned into dust and disappeared. Hans Bushi fell to the ground weakly. Although he was still conscious, he no longer had the ability to fight. Hans Bu Shi said hoarsely, "Oh, if I had known better I wouldn't have provoked you. If I had continued, maybe I wouldn't have been eliminated so early." "Hans, I'm actually very optimistic about your ability and combat effectiveness. You really shouldn't stop here, why don't you join me?" Su Yuan directly invited Hans Bu Shi in front of him. After all, there are still many places on his side. If all 20 people were to be held in his hands, it would definitely be a very powerful force. Then even if outsiders enter the Brave Academy, they will not be suppressed by the old students upon entering the academy. Hans Bu Shi's strength is obvious to all, and if he wants the other party to join his side, it will definitely be even more powerful. Backquote. Is this really okay? Hans Bu Shi didn't want to be eliminated, so when he met Su Yuan, he could only admit that he was unlucky. However, Su Yuan did not directly eliminate him, but instead invited him to join. This was absolutely unexpected for him. "Hans, I can vouch for your strength. Only Yi Tian here can fight with you." Su Yuan is not joking. Although Izuku and others are very powerful, they have not grown up yet and are not Hansbos at all. Rival Day. Yi Tian is called the son of God, and he can know that the other party has means, so he should be able to compete with Hans Bu at 15 to 50. Hans Bu Shi nodded naturally and said, "As long as you don't dislike my fighting power, I will join." Good news for Denuo. The combat effectiveness of Su Yuan's side has once again expanded. Su Yuan does not need those people behind Hans Bu Shi. Izuku Midoriya wanted to say something. Shoto Todoroki walked a few steps forward. "Su Yuan, this is the best way to do it. What we have to do is to enter the Brave Academy. We should not do anything that is not conducive to our goals." Bakugo Katsuki yelled. "Bakugo, you should take care of yourself. I hope you can show your strength in this trial and not get mixed up." Midoriya Izuku gritted his teeth and looked at all the eliminated members. Only Hansbuju was left to remove the effect and join them. Just when they were about to take a breath, a sharp alarm sounded from above. "Please pay attention, after 1 minute, the edge area will begin to release poisonous gas. If you stay in this poisonous gas for a long time, you will directly faint and be eliminated. So everyone, let's start running poison." The invigilator of quirks laughed like a loudspeaker in the air. As expected, the field began to become chaotic. Some guys who planned to mix points began to take action. The poisonous gas was indeed released, and the speed of this poisonous gas was not slow. I believe that the venue will be covered in less than half an hour. During this time, they can only continue to run poison and get closer to the central area. It seems that the battle between these 20 people will break out. Yi Tianden said. It seems that the higher-ups really intend to only have 20, and they are not alarmist. Su Yuan nodded and said, "No matter what, it's fine. Let's repair and set off. After all, there will probably be a lot of fighting later." Midoriya Izuku whispered, "I'll go to the front and take a look." It seems that he is still worried about what happened just now. Indeed, he cannot control or stop this kind of thing. Shoto Todoroki was about to speak, but Su Yuan held down Shoto Todoroki and said, "You have a good rest and leave the matters over to Midoriya to me." Su Yuan followed. After all, walking alone in this scene is not a safe thing. There are people moving in groups everywhere, and those who are alone will probably be dealt with directly. Main Midoriya Izuku's heart is too soft now and he doesn't know how to choose between things. "Help!" 1 inch a scream came to Midoriya Izuku's ears, and he immediately came out. What caught my eye was 3 men surrounding a blonde woman. This woman was very beautiful and had a good figure. At this time, she was forced to the stone by the 3 men, her eyes full of fear. "I never thought there would be such a beautiful woman here, but don't be afraid, little sister. I just want you to be our teammate, brother 3, and I won't do anything to you." The man with the scar at the beginning, he licked the corners of his mouth, his hands looked a little dishonest, and it didn't look like an invitation. Naturally, the blonde woman could tell at a glance that she could not agree to the other party no matter what. "Stop screaming, they are all hiding and looking for better cover. No one will pay attention to you. Joining the 3 of us is definitely the best choice for a lone ranger like you." The scarred man laughed and was about to take action. A phantom appeared, pushing away the three people in front of him, looking at each other coldly. This lady is very unwilling, can't you see? It's not a good thing to force someone. Hey, Midoriya Izuku really took action. Forget it, let's take a look first. Su Yuan, who followed, had already guessed the result. Midoriya Izuku couldn't help but take action after all, that sense of justice. The three men had bad tempers. After being interrupted from their good deeds, they said coldly, "Where did the little dwarf come from? Heroes save the beauty. You really thought well. But you have to carefully consider whether you have the strength." A punch struck instantly, and Midoriya could easily dodge it, but looking at the spot, a clear fist mark appeared on the ground amid a faint smoke. This guy's attack power is really extraordinary and very lethal. Green Valley Izuku knows that there is basically no simple person here, and he will not underestimate any Dao existence. He whispered, "Miss, go that way, it's safe there." The woman looked at the sudden appearance of Midoriya Izuku. For some reason, this little man gave her a very comfortable feeling. She nodded and said, "Be careful. Want to leave?" The man standing behind turned into a stream of water and rushed over. In an instant, he appeared in front of the woman, blocking her way. Body of water, men's quirks, as long as water can transform into any form, he can do it. Blocking the woman in front of him, Midoriya Izuku rushed out. Like lightning, the attack increased several levels in a flash. The originally gentle Midoriya Izuku was completely covering his body at this time to attack, control his whole body, let the power spread, and don't completely explode at 100%. Seeing the sudden change in Midoriya and Izuku's appearance, the three of them became vigilant. A man stepped back, his whole body covered with feathers. These feathers were as hard and sharp as steel plates. Rain of arrows. In the blink of an eye, countless feathers shot out and fell from all directions, locking on Izuku Midoriya. At this time, Midoriya Izuku's whole body moved, and these strong feathers were all repelled, but because of the woman behind him, he had to spend more energy to resist. Very good, let me see if you can continue. Guyu continued to attack, and the water bodies began to use their own effects to contain Green Valley's actions. The range of movement has been greatly reduced, the space to move has been compressed. Under this ultra-high difficulty, it is still very difficult to accept these attacks. His fist began to heat up, and the cyclone absorbed and gathered, covering his fist. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Texas Smash." If this punch were to be really delivered, Midoriya, who couldn't control the intensity, didn't know what would happen. In an instant, a gentle force directly neutralized Midoriya Izuku's attack. In an instant, all his attacks dissipated without spreading at all. To deal with these miscellaneous fish, there is no need to use such attacks. Leave the rest to me. Su Yuan pressed down Lu Gu's attack and landed lightly. Su Yuan at this moment gave Lu Jiyu a feeling of all might. "Okay, if you leave next, I don't have to deal with you, but if you continue to stay here, I don't know what will happen," Su Yuan said casually. Naturally, there will be no fluctuations or changes among the three. He laughed and said, "It turns out that this silly boy has an accomplice. Don't think that if you take over my steel feathers easily, you can." Before the man with all the feathers could finish his words, he was punched hard in the abdomen, and all the breath in his body was at this moment. It all came to an abrupt end. When he spit out a mouthful of water, his bones were shattered into pieces, and his whole body was blown away. Even the tempered body was like crispy skin, shattered inch by inch, turned into debris, and fell heavily in the distance. Do any of you still want to give it a try?" Su Yuan looked at the other two with a chuckle, and knocked them out with one punch. This speaks volumes. The scarred man could tell at a glance that the Su Yuan in front of him was not simple, and he could not provoke. He ran away without saying a word, leaving only the eliminated Steel Hair and Su Yuan. After the woman saw that everyone was gone, she almost lost her balance and breathed out a sigh of relief and said, "Thank you both for your help. I am Beverly Tell from Country Y, Quirks Treatment. I don't know what the two benefactors are called. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."